Global evolution. I transplanted the heart of the Supreme God. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 True Red Executor. 470 Combat Power. About the same as the senior from the God of War Peak, Munis. The monster hatched from the black and red cocoon was at least a level 8 lord. And this was because Bai Pu had broken the cocoon in advance, so it had not fully developed. If it were an ordinary person, without the secret of collapsing mountains or similar powerful defense-breaking means, he would definitely not be able to break the cocoon. This guy's complete form would probably have to be upgraded to a higher level. Go. Bai Pu, with the skills provided by gene fusion, rushed up first with a big sword. The monster roared to the sky, and invisible sound waves exploded the air, forming circles of air distortion ripples that could be seen with the naked eye. For the first time, Bai Pu had such a clear understanding of the word deafening. He interrupted his forward movement, bent down slightly and covered his ears, with the illusion that his eardrums were damaged. True Red Executioner, incomplete, S skill, True Red Roar caused 117 points of shock damage to you, and your movement speed was reduced by 50 points. This movement speed reduction is slowly restored within 10 seconds. Is this monster called True Red Executor? Bai Pu noticed the word True Red in the name and was secretly alert. The True Red Executor was obviously blessed by the power of True Red, and the effect was only higher than that of the group of red sand ghosts. Most of them also had the characteristic of attacks ignoring parries and blocks. This characteristic can be called a MT killer, because MT's survivability is stronger than other professions, mainly because it is easier to block the boss's general attack with a shield, which can reduce 90% of the general attack damage. If we really talk about health value, MT is not much stronger than other professions. A high-level MT can have a health value of 1 or 2,000 higher than a high-level power output profession. Counting armor, it can only resist 2 or 3 more attacks from the boss. However, Bai Pu did not feel guilty when facing this MT killer. After all, he has the damage reduction of the innate adaptive evolution, and the melee skill bonus provided by gene fusion can also dodge to the greatest extent. After the True Red Executor roared, he rushed directly towards Bai Pu, whose movement speed dropped sharply. He started his sprint very slowly, but once he started, he was like a heavy truck out of control, speeding up and getting more and more powerful. This is one of the skills of the True Red Executor, Thunder Strike. Bai Pu predicted in advance, activated Gangbu, and narrowly avoided it. Bai Pu's meticulous observation and prediction ability were important to avoid Thunder Strike in a state of severe deceleration, but his Gangfang's secret effect Gangbu also played a great role. Without the sprint speed forcibly increased by Gangbu, even if Bai Pu predicted successfully, he would not be able to avoid this attack based on the remaining 20 points of movement speed after being slowed down by the True Red Roar. After Bai Pu avoided this attack, he slashed horizontally with a sword, and the great sword swept across the waist of the True Red Executor, leaving a white mark. What a strong defense! Ordinary attacks without additional fighting spirit can hardly break the defense, and even the True Red Executor's balance is not affected. With such an endurance attribute, I'm afraid it is close to 200 points. The True Red Executor slapped back, and Bai Pu felt a surge of power, and he flew out like a small stone. 577. What a strong force. Bai Pu felt like he was facing a lava dragon. In terms of strength, he could not compete with the True Red Executor in front of him. Moreover, the lava dragon was strong in strength judgment value, but this True Red Executor was absolutely strong in strength attribute. The fact that the casual slap just now on Bai Pu, a high defense MT, could cause such high damage is proof of this. According to Bai Pu's calculations, the strength attribute of the True Red Executor is probably close to 200 points. High strength, high endurance, these two items account for at least 400 points of attributes. Then its agility and spirit should be its weak attributes. Bai Pu took a deep breath. Quick, go in. As he said that, he raised his hand and carried the guide Tenyu, and ran into the depths of the ruins. Tom and Asana, who were brewing magic attacks from a distance, looked at Bai Pu in confusion. Seeing Bai Pu running away in advance, the two did not dare to stay and followed him at the same time. Behind them, the True Red Executor roared and chased, But its speed was not fast, and it could only follow Bai Pu and the other 4 from a distance. This monster's defense is too strong. We can't deal with it now. We can only run away. Bai Pu whispered. Why don't you run outside? Tom asked. He was a little disgusted with a strange and terrifying relic. There was actually a terrifying monster like the true Red Executor. The name of the Blood Moon was indeed worthy of its name. This guy will chase us. The passage we came from is very narrow. If it chases us and suddenly launches the martial arts that hide us just now, who of you can dodge it? Bai Pu said. Tom's face turned pale. He and Asana both remembered that from the Gate of Power to here, the long corridor was simply the perfect place for the true Red Executors. Thunderstrike. Bai Pu continued, more importantly, the road we came from is a dead end, blocked by a strange red fog. If we go back, we will die. Why not go deeper and find the source of the red fog to see if there is a glimmer of hope? Bai Pu hadn't said a word yet. He felt that the attribute distribution of this true Red Executor was a bit strange. Strength and endurance each took about 200 points of attributes. The spirit should be extremely low, and the agility is at most 50 or 60 points. This kind of attribute is almost clear that outsiders can't beat it, but they can run away. Once the outsider chooses to run, where can they run to? They can only choose to go deeper into the ruins like Bai Pu. From this point of view, the true Red Executor doesn't seem to be for killing, but for driving the outsiders deeper into the ruins. Suddenly, a warning surged in Bai Pu's heart. Black ripples emerged in front of him, and a cold long sword seemed to stick out from the shadow and slashed at Bai Pu's neck. Bai Pu's figure flashed, and the gang step was activated, and he jumped back. However, the cold sword was faster and chased after him. Before Bai Pu landed, he launched another move to try to get rid of the cold sword. Bai Pu launched 4 moves in a row and changed his position 4 times, but the cold sword was still pressing, each time accurately pointing at Bai Pu's neck. Star explosion. After a short chant, Tom cast a fire magic, and a series of fireballs whizzed out. Under Tom's advanced meditation expertise, the continuous fireballs hit the sword accurately and deflected it. Bai Pu took a breath. He put down the god Tanyu he was carrying and pulled out the dark gold tower shield. The ink-like shadow dissipated, and 2 figures appeared in front of Bai Pu. One of them was tall and thin, and it was Xilu, one of the members of this Hixing Tower that Bai Pu had seen. The other was well-proportioned, like a tiger, with a streamlined body that possessed both strength and speed. And the cold sword was held in his hand. Chapter 477 Serious. Xilu, it's you. Bai Pu narrowed his eyes. The blade in the shadow that appeared without warning just now was very similar to the method used by Xilu that he encountered last time at Zhejiang University. Bai Pu had already checked the information about Xilu. Although it was not much, it was enough. Xilu's elusive hiding method was the secret of shadow that he cultivated. Xilu himself was a phantom assassin, with agility. The secret of shadow complemented his profession. He could create a phantom domain, hide quickly in the phantom domain, and help friendly forces hide. The hiding priority of the phantom domain is as high as level 8. Unless Bai Pu, an enhanced hero profession, has learned a 3-star detection skill, it is possible to catch Xilu from the phantom domain. The slender and strong awakener next to Xilu flashed with blue light, and Bai Pu suddenly felt that the space around him was stagnant. Xianlang used the rank of Black Iron Major to suppress your rank. Your rank is Lieutenant, suppression is effective. For 600 seconds, you cannot use any props or skills related to spiritual teleportation. S rank wanted criminal, Xianlang. Bai Pu was shocked when he saw this codename, which was considered famous in the Secret Service. Obviously, Xianlang's status was higher than Xilu. This time, Xilu took the initiative to help and used his own phantom realm to assist Xianlang, just to make Bai Pu fall here. Steel Heart, this day next year will be your death anniversary. Xilu said a victory declaration that was nothing new. Deputy Director Simli. Tom and Asana looked at Xilu in confusion. They didn't understand why Deputy Director Simli wanted to collude with outsiders to attack the students of Gurjetsan Academy. The conversation between Bai Pu and Xilu involved the mystery of the world, so it was naturally blocked from the indigenous people. Xilu didn't even look at the other 2 indigenous students. In his heart, he had already sentenced the 2 to death. After all, the identity of Simli was created by him after he randomly explored the Dalmo world several times. Only by silencing him could he keep his identity. Moreover, Zilao would not do it himself. He would hand it over to Xianlan beside him, so there would be no negative effects such as a decline in reputation. The reason why Zilao cherished this identity was also very simple. There were fewer tickets to the high-level spiritual world, and they no longer specified the world they belonged to. They could only vaguely locate all worlds of the same type and style. For example, Zilao used a ticket produced in the Damo world to match, but in the end it might match the world of the high-level spiritual world, Holy War, Crusade, which was also in a magical style. Xianlan raised his long knife and smiled coldly. I heard that you are also the owner of a junction. You can try to return to the junction. Bai Pu didn't need to try. The ability to return to the junction was originally in a gray and unavailable state, and it was obviously also imprisoned by the suppression of military rank. In front, Xianlan and Zilao, two high-level awakeners, blocked the way. Behind him, the true Red Executor was gradually approaching. Bai Pu exhaled lightly, holding a sword in one hand and a shield in the other, and strode forward. In his eyes, Tianlang's combat power value was clearly reflected. Deep red, 450 points. At least a level 9 enhanced hero, stronger than the Ares Peak student toxin. Quite courageous. Tianlang licked his lips and gave his evaluation. He raised his long sword, and the blood-red fighting spirit spread like a raging tide. Swish! Tianlang's figure was like a lightning bolt, flying in front of Bai Pu, and the long sword was like the scythe of the god of death, slashing Bai Pu's neck. So fast. The Blood River territory did not limit Tianlang's speed, and Bai Pu could only hold up his shield to meet the attack. Such a fast speed has already formed a speed crushing, and he has no time to use his weapon to parry. However, the expected sound of the sword and shield colliding did not sound, and Tianlang's figure suddenly flashed behind Bai Pu. It was so fast that Bai Pu had no time to turn around, and he was hit on the back, and it was burning with pain. 708. This knife cut off 700 plus of Bai Pu's health. The powerful force even made Bai Pu stagger forward. You know, Bai Pu had already switched his adaptive evolution to keratin skin, which could reduce his ability to resist sharp damage by half. Bai Pu also has various passive strength-enhancing abilities. Generally, attacks with less than 100 points of strength are difficult to shake Bai Pu's balance. To be able to make Bai Pu stagger, the strength value must be at least 150 plus. Both strength and agility are more than 150 points. Bai Pu rushed forward, rolled forward, and defended against Tianlang's next knife in a standard half-kneeling shield posture. At this time, the true Red Executor was approaching, and Asina and Tom were busy with their own affairs and had no spare time to support Bai Pu. The Phantom Realm of the West Building was opened again, hiding him and Tianlang's figures, so that they would not be attacked by the true Red Executor, and at the same time, it could also have the effect of sneak attacking Bai Pu. In the shadows, Tianlang smiled evilly, and the blood-red fighting spirit like the tide broke out again, and the shadows of the swords were like a forest. Bai Pu could only hold up his shield to defend, but the familiar feeling came again. Tianlang's figure was erratic, and he suddenly slid to the side of Bai Pu. He slashed again, leaving another wound on Bai Pu's waist. 611. It doesn't look difficult to kill him. Tianlang could see that Bai Pu's health value had dropped below 3,000 at this time, and he couldn't help but sneer. That's right, brother Tianlang is good at both strength and agility, and both attributes are over 150 points. Gangzin's strength is okay, but his agility is pitifully weak, and he was just caught by brother Tianlang. Zilu complimented, kill Gangzin and take his heart back, and brother Tianlang will have done a great deed. You have also contributed. Tianlang smiled, and randomly burst out his fighting spirit again, and countless knife shadows slashed at Bai Pu, making it impossible to tell where his next knife would land. In terms of combat expertise, Bai Pu is not inferior to Tianlang. But in terms of hard attributes and agility, he really loses too much. Bai Pu suddenly stood up, and a trace of fierceness flashed in his eyes. That was the fierce light of risking his life. Crackling. The Queen of the Spiders is on alert, her demonic power is released. The special effect of protecting the master is activated. The fine shield armor pieces are embedded in Bai Pu's body. Xianlang's next knife landed on Bai Pu's side ribs, but was blocked by the shield armor pieces, eliminating 90% of the damage. At the moment when Xianlang hit the target, his figure inevitably paused for a short time. Bai Pu suddenly stretched out his hand, as if he had rehearsed countless times, and the lasso attack accurately hit Xianlang. The next second, the phantom of the mountain collapse enlarged in front of Xianlang, and Xianlang's body was dragged towards Bai Pu. The secret of collapsing mountains fell with a bang. However, Xianlang is also an awakened person of the enhanced hero level. He directly used the control release props to forcibly cancel the suppression special effect, and then his figure floated back 1 foot. With a mocking smile, Xianlang looked at the tip of Bai Pu's sword, which was almost close to his nose. If the sword misses, Bai Pu will inevitably be paralyzed, which will give Xianlang a chance to launch a fierce combination attack. Chapter 478. This trick is no longer useful. When Bai Pu's sword was about to miss, he naturally felt the crisis. What should I do? This sword was full of the secret of collapsing mountains and injected with a maximum amount of blood river fighting spirit. It can't stop just like that. Unfortunately, the secret of collapsing mountains failed to hit, and the power could not be poured on Xianlang, otherwise he would definitely be in trouble. Now, he can only rely on the magic power liberation protection special effect of the dark gold tower shield to resist a fierce counterattack of Xianlang. Suddenly, Bai Pu had an idea in his mind. No. The secret of collapsing mountains is taken from the natural phenomenon of mountain collapse. When the mountains collapse, the power is not limited to the mountain itself, but comes from the violent vibration of the underground, the terrible power of the distortion and compression of the Earth's plates. If you can consciously condense the power of fighting spirit in one direction through the mountains, the explosive energy will definitely be transmitted through the air, which is not inferior to the effect of weapons hitting the enemy's body. Bai Pu completed his epiphany almost in an instant. He chopped down with a sword and hit the open space in front of Xianlang. Xianlang grinned and was about to launch a fierce counterattack. But the next second after the big sword landed, a tremor like an earthquake came. Under Xianlang's feet, a blood-colored battle spirit wave rushed out as if the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, directly hitting the unprepared Xianlang, knocking his body high into the air. 1024. You have comprehended the ultimate skill, Earth Shatter. Earth Shatter, 3-star ultimate skill. Shock the ground, produce an explosion in the designated direction of close-range power transmission, cause heavy damage to the enemy at the target location and knock it high. The time the target is knocked away depends on the positive difference between you and his strength, at least 1 second. Your proficiency in the ultimate skill of Collapse Mountain has been greatly improved, and the current proficiency level is Mastery. Your understanding of the ultimate skill of Collapse Mountain has reached the Mastery level. You can transform all the ultimate special effects you have learned into ultimate skills. You have obtained the ultimate skill, Suppression. You have obtained the ultimate skill, Collapse Mountain. A long series of prompts came, but Bai Pu was in the middle of a fierce battle at this time and automatically blocked them. In fact, Bai Pu did not need to read these prompts, because the enlightenment that flashed automatically in his mind and the skills that his body naturally mastered seemed to have been practiced for many years and deeply engraved in his body. When Xianlang was knocked into the air, Bai Pu stepped forward, kicked the big sword with his toes, and slashed it out. But the next second, Xianlang's figure disappeared like a ghost. Phantom Realm. It was Zilao who took the time to help Xianlang resolve the crisis. Otherwise, Bai Pu's sword slash, which contained the profound meaning of collapsing mountains at the mastery level, was enough to cause more than 1,000 damage even if it was 2 or 3 levels higher, and at least it could beat Xianlang to half of his health. The Phantom Realm is not invincible. The volcanic shield on Bai Pu's body has been charged for enough time, and it exploded directly. Under the strong and fierce energy, Xianlang, who was still nearby, was forcibly pushed against the wall, leaving a slowly falling human-shaped imprint in the dust, and appeared in a panic. After appearing, Xianlang could no longer escape into the Phantom Realm for a short time. Bai Pu raised his hand directly, and the ultimate skill, Suppression, was activated. The Phantom of the Mountain collapse grabbed Xianlang's mind. This is the ultimate special effect of Lasso Strike. Now, with the ultimate skill of Collapsing Mountains being upgraded to the Mastery level, it has been transformed into an ultimate skill that can be performed alone. The cost of casting is extremely small, and it can be cast multiple times in a short period of time. The cost is the same as Gangbu, but it will consume extra Blood River fighting spirit. Xianlang's body froze, and he desperately urged his advanced fighting spirit training method, Blood Tide. With his tenacious will, he finally compressed the controlled time of suppression, to the shortest. However, in a flash, he had lost the initiative and was slashed by Bai Pu's sword, and retreated in embarrassment. Xianlang took advantage of his agility and retreated several steps. He then flashed across the sky, splitting into dozens of afterimages, trying to confuse Bai Pu's sight before attacking again. This trick is no longer useful. Bai Pu closed his eyes slightly. The improvement brought by the mountain collapse secret to the mastery level is definitely not just a 180% damage increase, nor is it just a series of independent secret skills. It is a familiar feeling of the earth shaking and collapsing. Even when he closed his eyes, Bai Pu could still feel it. When Xianlang stepped on the ground, the strong explosive force caused the dust and soil on the ground to sink slightly, and the earth element molecules that made up the rock collapsed and reorganized under the heavy pressure in an instant, forming clear footprints. Ling. Bai Pu's sword accurately pointed to Xianlang's first landing point, which was also the landing point that Xianlang originally intended to attack. When the swords intersected, Xianlang exclaimed in surprise, and swept sideways to kill Bai Pu's right wing to guard against the empty space. Ling. Bai Pu's greatsword was raised again in advance. Xianlang repeated this 7 times, and Bai Pu blocked it 7 times in advance. His agility advantage was not effective. If he only fought with strength, Xianlang would not have much advantage over Bai Pu. After all, although Bai Pu's strength attribute was inferior to his strength judgment bonus was too high. Okay. In that case, let's fight head-on. Xianlang shouted angrily, and the blade slashed with blood-red light. He had used the killing secret skill he had learned, treacherous breaking knife. This attack could not only cause physical damage, but also attack the enemy's body with the fierce power of sure blood evil. In other words, it had a similar effect to true red power. Even if the opponent parried the physical attack, the evil power would penetrate the body and cause unstoppable damage. Bai Pu responded with a mountain collapse secret. Boom! With a loud bang, Xianlang's figure retreated continuously, and the blood-red blade light of treacherous breaking knife was also completely broken by the phantom of the mountain collapse. The mountain collapse secret has broken through to the mastery level, and it can even offset this kind of unstoppable additional damage? Exclamation mark. Bai Pu was surprised. In this way, even if he faced the true Red Executor, he would have a way. As a high-level awakener, Xianlang certainly has many powerful skills that have not been used. He was repelled by Bai Pu's sword, and his face was greatly damaged. Just when he was about to rush over, he suddenly stopped and looked at the dark part of the corridor vigilantly. Who is it? Come out quickly. In the darkness, an extremely tall and strong figure walked out slowly. Wearing simple wild-style animal bone armor, with muscles all over his body, he gave people the feeling of a walking wild beast. Bai Pu was already tall, but in front of this wild man in front of him, he was still half a head shorter. Senior Daizong. Bai Pu was a little surprised. Although he saw the bubble where Daizong was when matching, he didn't expect that Daizong would come here. He immediately smiled and said, Senior Daizong, are you also from Gajetsun Academy? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479. I'll only say this once, get lost. Bai Pu could guess this because he had guessed when he entered the ruins that Gajetsun Academy would not allow elite freshmen like Tom and Asana to venture into this dangerous ancient ruins without protection. You know, the Tomb of the Red Sand Kingdom is just the name given by the desert people. This ruins has another name in Gajetsun Academy. It is called Ancient Ruins of Nasidus. This is not a wild ruins, but a task set by the school principal, Mr. Bosch Gajetsun. Since Principal Bosch has made it a bounty task for the academy, it means that Principal Bosch has a deeper understanding of the ruins and must have studied the Blood Moon. Therefore, since Principal Bosch agreed to the 3-person team to take on this bounty task, he is likely to send another master to secretly accompany and escort. Originally, Bai Pu thought that the person who came should be a senior from the God of War Peak, such as a Lord-level master of the first and second periods, or a school combat teacher with the same combat power. But to Bai Pu's surprise, the person sent by Principal Bosch was Daizong, who was also an awakener. Daizong was so trusted by Principal Bosch that it must not be his first time to come to the world of fighting demons. The reactions of Tom and Asana further confirmed Bai Pu's guess. As soon as Daizong appeared, they shouted happily, "Teacher Hercules!" With this shout, the true red executor they were fighting saw the flaw and tore at him with a claw wrapped in blood. The power of the true red executor is undoubtedly strong, but its agility is weak, so Tom and the others can hold on until now. Seeing that the claws of the true red executor were unavoidable, the two of them changed their expressions at the same time. "Teacher, help me." Daizong took a step forward. This step was very big, and he was almost in front of the true red executor in an instant. Then Daizong raised his arm and took the claw attack of the true red executor. With a swish, Daizong's body just shook slightly, and there were a few faint bloodstains on his body. Strong defense. Teacher Hercules, be careful. After being hit by this monster, you will become irritable. If you stack too many layers, you may lose your mind. Tom quickly reminded. Daizong hummed, fumbled around his waist, and took out a small wine bottle. It was a marching bottle, but in Daizong's hand, it looked quite mini. Daizong pinched the marching bottle with 3 fingers and poured a sip into his mouth. The skin on his body quickly turned red, as if he had a sauna, and a lot of fine sweat was steaming out. Roar! The true red executor roared again, and his left arm swept towards Daizong. Bang! With a muffled sound, Daizong held the arm of the true red executor. The strong sound of wind was accompanied by the splashing of sweat, as if 2 huge beasts began to wrestle. A scene that surprised Bai Pu appeared. The true red executor, whose strength value is not less than 200 points, was actually pushed back by Daizong inch by inch. This shows that Daizong's strength value also exceeded 200 points. Although his strength was not inferior to that of the true red executor, Daizong's fighting skills were much stronger than that of the true red executor. He stretched out his legs and inserted them into the crotch of the true red executor, and threw him out with a back throw. With a loud bang, the true red executor's body hit the rock wall, and endless dust fell down, slowly sliding down the rock wall. "What's going on with Simli?" Daizong said in a muffled voice. "Teacher, for some reason, Deputy Director Simli colluded with outsiders to attack us. The guy with the scimitar also injured Dio." Asana hurriedly complained. "Senior Daizong," Xilu said with a bitter face, "everything can be discussed. As long as we kill Steelheart and the 2 little guys from the academy, Zhaixing Tower will definitely reward us generously. By the way, you are quite familiar with our Lord Dragon King. Can you do something convenient for us?" These are all things that the natives should not know. The moment Xilu said it, he automatically entered the World Mystery Encrypted channel. "You mean, let me sacrifice my mission to fulfill you?" Daizong said coldly. I didn't get this status easily. Senior Daizong's mission should be to escort, right? Even if you fail, you won't be kicked out of Gurjetsun Academy. At most, you will lose some reputation and favorability. I'll only say this once, get lost. Daizong had no expression on his face. The escort mission in front of him was issued by Principal Bosch himself. Losing the favorability of Principal Bosch would be a huge loss for Daizong. Haha, I'd like to see how strong the first candidate for King of Power is. Xianlang sneered, holding a scimitar. "You're not the real King of Power yet, so you dare to be so arrogant? At most, you're 1 level higher than me. We're all equivalent to strengthening the hero template. Who's afraid of who?" Hearing this, Bai Pu couldn't help but sigh. The same template can also have a huge difference in strength. Just like the level of the intermediate awakener, both of them are level 6 hero professions. There is an obvious gap in the strength of Fenghero and Zhuanpin. 1 Fenghero can beat 3 Zhuanpins without any problem. The difference in strength between Bai Pu and Zhuanpin is even more difficult to estimate. At the level of high-level awakeners, even if they are of the same template, the difference in strength will only be greater. Daizong glanced at Yanlang, like a tiger seeing a human sliding towards him. He pulled out a dark axe from the back of his belt, turned around and said to Bai Pu and the other 2, "I will only help you deal with enemies outside the mission. You can deal with the true red executor yourself." "Okay." Tom and Asana answered obediently. Bai Pu's strength has greatly improved now, and he is no longer afraid of this deformed true red executor. When he was fighting, he had time to peek at the battle of Daizong, the top awakener. When Xilu saw Daizong take out the dark axe, his face suddenly changed. "Senior Daizong, Lord Yanlang, misunderstanding, this is all a misunderstanding." His voice stopped abruptly, because Daizong had taken the initiative to step into his phantom realm. Boom. The sound of stomping the ground rang out, and Daizong's sturdy left thigh stepped forward and stepped on the ground. A circle of sound waves spread out, and the ground seemed to shake like a soft blanket in an instant. The figures of Xilu and Bianlang, hidden in the dark, were shocked out in a panic. Daizong had already opened his posture, and the dark axe in his right hand flashed a dark light, obviously accumulating power. However, the charging time seemed a bit long, and Bianlang even had time to stand firm and then chopped out a Shurasha-breaking blade ultimate skill. Daizong's huge body suddenly retracted the battle axe and gently spun in the direction of charging. The Shurasha-breaking blade was twisted clean by this rotation, and even the body of Bianlang's long sword was broken back by Daizong's flesh and blood. After a circle of rotation, Daizong's left leg stepped on the ground again. The battle axe charged for the second time, and this time the charging time was much shorter, and it was chopped directly with a whistling sound. Chapter 480. Let's get out now. Daizong's battle axe did not emit any fighting spirit. It looked like an ordinary woodcutter casually swinging his axe at a tree. However, when Bianlang stood firm and tried to dodge, he felt something was wrong. The air around him seemed to be frozen. Other scenes disappeared. In Bianlang's vision, only the battle axe was left. The speed of the battle axe was not fast. But as the battle axe chopped down, a terrible squeezing force came from the surrounding heaven and earth, forcing him to face the battle axe. There was no room to dodge. Tianlang gritted his teeth and swung his sword to meet the dark battle axe. Ling. With a loud bang, Tianlang's long sword broke into two pieces on the spot. He was like a small stone hit by a heavy truck, and he flew backwards with a violent shock. With a loud bang, Tianlang's body hit the thick rock wall and slowly slid down. "Senior Daizong, please calm down." Zilao pulled Xianlang over and said with a smile, "Can we get out now? For the sake of the Dragon King, please give us a chance to live." Zilao was a candidate for the Lord of Death and could use his divine power to escape directly. But Xianlang was not a candidate, so he naturally did not have this authority. In fact, in terms of strength, Xianlang's combat power was stronger than Zilao. The reason why Zilao was favored by the 7 killing gods under the Lord of Death was due to a chance encounter. Daizong said lightly, "Don't scare me with the Dragon King. If you can escape, you will live. If you can't escape, you will die." Zilao quickly carried Xianlang on his back, and his figure suddenly turned into a phantom and disappeared. Daizong chopped the place where the two disappeared with an axe, and the ground shook, but he chopped nothing. He snorted and said nothing more. Zilao and Xianlang had already escaped. Bai Pu saw clearly that Daizong actually intended to let Xianlang and Zilao live. Perhaps the Dragon King had enough face. The reason why Daizong did not let the two go directly and had to put on a show was, of course, to fool the natives. In front of the two students, Tom and Asana, if Daizong directly let Xilu, the traitor of the academy, go, it would be difficult to explain to the academy's top management after returning. Now it is much simpler. Daizong can just say that it is not that I did not work hard, but that the enemy was too slippery. Tom and Asana did not notice this at all. The pressure from the true Red Executor was too great. Bai Pu had a strong observation ability and had been distracted by watching the battle between Daizong and Bianlang, so he found that Daizong worked but did not work hard. Even so, Bai Pu could hardly blame Daizong, and he would not be so smart as to tell the natives about Daizong deliberately letting Bianlang and Xilu go. Teacher Hercules, this true Red Executor is very powerful. After death, he should be able to get a good trophy treasure. Do you really not need it? Bai Pu asked. Daizong said dully, I don't need it. You will know the specific reason later. Bai Pu was determined in his heart, and turned to swing the chainsaw sword. Then I won't be polite. With the help of Tom and Asana's magic, Bai Pu was put into different buff states such as Gentle Wind Guardian and Glorious Exorcist Barrier. He also took advantage of the gap to drink a bottle of Strong Energy Potion, produced by Kin, which can restore 270 points of professional energy in 30 seconds. After reaching the mastery level of the Mountain Collapse secret, Bai Pu is no longer afraid of the penetration effect of the true red power. Every time he uses the Great Sword to parry the attack of the true Red Executor, the opponent's true red power will be defeated by Bai Pu's Mountain Collapse secret. The price of doing this is that Bai Pu must fully infuse the Blood River Dao Qi with every sword to exert the power of the Mountain Collapse secret, and the Dao Qi is consumed very quickly. At this time, Bai Pu's Dark Gold Tower Shield's demon power is about to end the state of liberating the Master, But his own gene fusion enhancement effect is still there, and his combat skills are far superior to this incomplete True Red Executor. Just like Daizong could throw the True Red Executor away in one encounter, Bai Pu could also attack through the flaws of the True Red Executor within 1 or 2 moves and deliver a powerful sword strike to the opponent. You should know that at this time, Bai Pu has already mastered the Mountain Collapse secret. Every time he attacks with all his strength, the power increase brought by the secret has reached 180%. Although the True Red Executor has the blessing of True Red power and significant damage reduction, it can't withstand Bai Pu's output. Every sword that falls on it can already cut clear blood marks. In other words, the True Red Executor's endurance attribute is too strong, and it is difficult to knock it into an unbalanced state. Otherwise, Bai Pu can continue to make a series of moves and end with output skills to inflict heavy damage on it. Now he can only use a sword to output one sword after another, and use flat slashes at intervals. However, each flat slash of Bai Pu can still cause considerable damage, as little as 300, as much as 600. After a long time, the True Red Executor can also bear it. Daizong was silent at first and watched Bai Pu's battle from the side. He suddenly said to himself, the combat power amplitude should have exceeded 10. The young are really formidable. Bai Pu did not hear Daizong's words. His fighting spirit was more than half consumed, while the True Red Executor's health value of 32,000 was still more than 20,000. Bai Pu had to use the Honor Energy Potion, Lieutenant, and a blue light flashed on his body, restoring the half-depleted fighting spirit to about 90%, and then continued to burst out the Blood River fighting spirit, exerting the Mountain Collapse secret to fight against the True Red Executor's True Red power. It was impossible not to do this. The True Red power ignored the effect of parrying and blocking, which was a bit scary, and one claw could take away Bai Pu's 500 to 600 health points. Bai Pu's health value was only over 5,000, unlike the True Red Executor who could withstand it. Fortunately, Bai Pu attracted most of the True Red Executor's attention, and Tom and Asana were also desperately outputting. When Bai Pu's fighting spirit was exhausted, the True Red Executor finally only had a little blood left, about 700 health points. Bai Pu summoned up his remaining strength and used his newly realized ultimate skill, Mountain Collapse, to infuse the power of the Mountain Collapse into the body of the True Red Executor. Boom! A terrible blood hole burst out of the True Red Executor's chest, and the whole body fell backwards. Hoo! Bai Pu leaned on his sword to rest, and Tom and Asana were almost exhausted. In the vision of Bai Pu and Daizong, a blood mist surged above the body of the True Red Executor, and then turned into a dark golden treasure chest, floating above the mist. This treasure chest looks a little small. Bai Pu thought silently, maybe the True Red Executor has not yet fully developed and has incomplete limbs? A disabled lord is so difficult to fight. If it is a complete lord, such as Munis of the God of War Peak, who knows how strong it will be? Watch out, the blood mist is about to dissipate. Daizong suddenly said something without any context. Bai Pu, Tom and Asana were all shocked at the same time. They looked up and saw that the thin blood mist that was originally lingering on the ceiling above their heads was slowly shrinking and rushing towards the depths of the ruins. Chapter 481. It's not the Aboriginals' fault. It looked like there was an indescribable giant monster deep in the ruins. It took a deep breath and sucked all the blood mist into its mouth. Blood moon. The blood moon ended early. Suddenly, a faint voice came from a corner where no one noticed. It was the guide Tanyu, who had just woken up. Poor Tanyu, he was knocked unconscious by Tom before entering the ruins. Later, when he woke up, he found out more about the bad news of the blood moon in his depths. Then he encountered the True Red Ghost and the True Red Executor, and was carried on Bai Pu's shoulders and ran. As for his second coma, it was probably because he was knocked unconscious by the shock of the battle between the strong men. You know, Xianling alone was hit on the wall twice, once by Bai Pu, and once by Daizong. And the True Red Executor was also thrown against the wall by Daizong once. The shock caused was naturally nothing to the awakened masters and indigenous strongmen present, but for a mediocre Tenyu, it was obviously an unbearable burden. You said the blood moon ended early? What does that mean? Tom became excited. Tanyu said, it's literally what it says. Now it's safe. We can leave the mausoleum at any time. We may encounter some dangers, but it's much better than the blood moon. That is to say, the red mist that blocks the entrance and can only enter but not exit has disappeared. Asana was a little surprised. I'll go and take a look. You guys rest here. Tom forced himself to get up. No need. Bai Pu stroked the dark gold shield, summoned 2 spider demon warriors, and ordered them to explore. Wow, your shield is not simple. It should be an ancient relic, right? Tom said enviously. Not only can it be transformed into armor to protect the whole body, but it can also be used as a medium for summoning. There are 2 ways of summoning in the world of fighting demons. One is the contract array summoning, which is the most orthodox route for summoning magicians. When you reach the top level, you can even activate the God's Descent array and summon the Phantom of Ancient Divine Power, also known as the God's Descender. The second is the medium summoning, which does not require the consumption of magic power, nor does it require the contract array and chanting, and directly summons the creatures associated with a medium. Bai Pu had never practiced summoning magic, so in Tom's eyes, he was summoned through a medium. But Tom only expressed his envy verbally and did not have any covetous thoughts. He could see that the 2 spider demons summoned by Bai Pu were very weak. They would probably be of no use in the battle with the strong, and could only be cannon fodder. At this time, the shield devoured the remains of the true Red Executor and became as bright as new, and the durability was directly restored to the full value. The attribute bonus of Devouring Enhancement became Strength plus 10 and Endurance plus 10. The total bonus is 20, which should be the attribute bonus of the Devouring Enhancement of the Dark Gold Tower Shield. If he wants to improve it again, Bai Pu has to collect sparkling dragon crystals to upgrade the base material of the Dark Gold Tower Shield from rare to top quality. Not long after, the 2 spider demon warriors came back. The red fog at the entrance of the ruins has indeed disappeared. You can leave at any time. Bai Pu asked, what do you think? Do you want to continue exploring? Since the blood moon ends early, of course I have to continue exploring. Tom was obsessed with it and wanted to complete the mission of the academy. Tom could also feel that Bai Pu's combat power had increased. Even a monster like the true Red Executor died under the siege of 3 people. What is there to be afraid of? Isana asked again. Dio, what do you think? She had to find out the opinions of the main force. Isana was more sober. She knew that the killing of the true Red Executor was mainly because Bai Pu withstood the pressure in the front and played the highest output. She and Tom were just pendants on the thighs. In Tom's expectant eyes, Bai Pu said, I also plan to continue exploring. I wonder if Teacher Hercules can go with me. Main Quest 3, The Lost Scepter. The main difficulty should be the Blood Moon and the Red Sand Guards. The problem of the Blood Moon has been solved. I guess the so-called Sandstorm Mates should be less powerful than the true Red Executor. What really concerned Bai Pu was the spying of Yuan Lang and Zai Lu. Especially Zai Lu, although his own combat power may not be strong, his shadow secrets in Phantom Realm are obviously of high priority. At least Bai Pu cannot predict it in advance at present. At most, he will produce a warning sign a moment before the opponent's attack arrives. Daizong said lightly, I will help you deal with enemies outside the mission. As for the mission itself, it depends on you. Okay, then it's settled. Tom was very excited. Dio, Asana, let's rest for a few hours, and wait until the fighting spirit and magic power are fully restored, and then start exploring. Tom and the others fell asleep quickly, and Bai Pu took out the dark golden treasure chest and made it float in the air. Senior Daizong, although I picked up this treasure chest, you also made a great contribution. How about we split it equally? Daizong crossed his arms and shook his head slightly. I guess there's nothing good in the treasure chest, you can keep it yourself. Bai Pu was puzzled. The true Red Executor is at least a level 8 lord, and Bai Pu is the main force. Although there are 2 level 7 indigenous enhanced warriors to help, the loot in the treasure chest should not be reduced too much, right? Bai Pu reached out and pressed the treasure chest, silently chanting to open it. The next second, Bai Pu was shocked. He actually only had 1 chance to draw. And he didn't get the prompt of, exclude undervalued cards. Level 8 Lord. Bai Pu couldn't help but sigh, the pollution of the indigenous people is too terrible. I shouldn't have let Tom and the others do it. If Bai Pu tried harder, even if he used the ancestral blessing skill attached to the suit, it would not be impossible to chew this hard bone independently. It's not the fault of the indigenous people. Daizong suddenly said, it's me. Bai Pu looked up at Daizong with a puzzled look on his face. He did remember that Daizong used a throw skill at the beginning, which caused a certain amount of damage to the true Red Executor. However, Daizong only hit this output this time throughout the whole process, and the damage was not particularly exaggerated, less than 1,000 points. I'm 35 years old. As early as 3 years ago, I had reached level 10. Daizong said calmly, the older the awakener is, the higher his level is, the fewer loot chests he can get in the spirit world, and the lower their value. Now, the monsters I kill, even if they are lord level, will not drop treasure chests. Even if a treasure chest appears by luck, it is destined to be just a water tank. Is this forcing the senior to advance? Bai Pu said. Daizong nodded, and then said, everything I do now is to prepare for the ascension plane. At present, the only things that the advanced spirit world can improve me are combat skills and true meaning, which require the teaching of the top indigenous strongmen in the advanced spirit world. Chapter 482 Saving the Han Bloodline. Bai Pu understood why Daizong was not interested in the lord-level monster True Red Executor. It turned out that a full-level awakener like Daizong was targeted so strictly by the will of the spirit world. However, such a full-level awakener would not lack psychic points and psychic treasures. I wonder how many organizations are willing to recruit them. Many big guys are the leaders of a faction. You can draw this dark gold treasure box yourself. Because of my actions, the probability of treasure drops is reduced, so it is difficult for you to draw dark gold equipment or gold items. Daizong sat down cross-legged, however, after all, you are the main output and your level is low. The will of the spirit world will give you some compensation as usual. The things you finally draw may be the types of items you urgently need, and the possibility of garbage is not high. Bai Pu hummed and clicked on a dark gold card. The card turned over, and a beating heart pattern appeared. Then, in a dark golden light, the heart solidified in front of Bai Pu. True Red Heart, special item, a magical organ filled with chaotic power. Chaos power composition, dark attribute and fire attribute. Please consult relevant professionals for specific uses. These are the tips given by the will of the spirit world, but it happens that Bai Pu is half a professional. The books he read in the secret library are not read in vain. Magic organs can cultivate magic seeds, but they are dark and fire attributes. Bai Pu shook his head regretfully. The magic circuits he has cultivated are about earth and wind attributes, and the fact that he was able to cultivate them so quickly is due to Bai Pu's mountain collapse secret and wind secret. The dark attribute of the fighting demon world tends to be curse magic, and its source belongs to the lineage of the underworld god. If Bai Pu wants to cultivate dark attribute magic circuits, it will be difficult to get guidance in Jetson Academy, and he must go to Lorich Magic Academy. Fire attribute magic circuits, like earth and wind, belong to the element system, but he can consult Tom about common sense questions. But based on Tom's strength, he couldn't answer Bai Pu's questions. Bai Pu hadn't comprehended the fire mysteries in advance. It would definitely take more than a day or two to cultivate a magic circuit with fire attributes. We still have to continue exploring. Fortunately, the blood moon has passed, and we can explore the ruins normally. According to Tom, it's no problem to obtain earth-attributed magic cores or magic organs here. It's just a matter of quality. Bai Pu asked the spider warriors to be on guard, and he lay down next to Tom and Asana and fell asleep. The ruined city walls were filled with smoke and dust, and there were cries everywhere. The Jin soldiers were like wolves and tigers, raping and looting wantonly. The originally prosperous Bianjing was on fire. Is this another plane of the spirit world? It's really completely different from the customs and practices of our Sweden. Qin walked through the ruins, looking around with a little curiosity. When I was matched in, the spirit worlds will prompted me that this is the world of Xiangsha, Jingking Change. It looks like an ancient Chinese-style source plane. Unfortunately, I don't know much about ancient Chinese history. It looks like this should be the capital of a Chinese country, and it was breached by the barbarians. Qin gently knocked on the thick wall of the city. Such a solid city with perfect city defense facilities was actually breached by the barbarians. It seems that the strongest city is always the human heart. Qin muttered to herself, the main quest has not been released yet. But my task is to travel around the world and discover legendary points for Dio. I have to contact the dignitaries and higher-ranking officials in this world first. Do you want to get to know the commander of this barbarian army? Qin actually didn't have any feelings for the barbarians and the orthodoxy of the Central Plains. If the barbarians can achieve her goal, Qin doesn't mind joining the barbarian camp of course. If she meets the commander of the barbarians and gains a certain reputation, Qin can also make appropriate suggestions to let the other party restrain the soldiers and commit fewer sins. However, Qin overlooked one point, that is, her high charm. In the world of Xiangsha, Jingkang change, Qin's high appearance has been adjusted by the will of the spirit world, and her appearance has become a beautiful and gentle Bianjing beauty, and there is a hint of exotic style between her eyebrows and eyes. This kind of appearance has a fatal attraction to the Jin soldiers who are indulging their lust. What a beautiful southern barbarian woman! Several Jin soldiers who had just rushed out of a wealthy family with big and small bags saw Qin, and their eyes were suddenly straightened, rubbing their crotches and rushing over. These Jin soldiers spoke barbarian language, but when Qin entered, she temporarily acquired the official language of the Song dynasty and the language of the Jin people, and she could understand it. You left me no choice. Qin gently hooked her fingers, and suddenly several Jin soldiers' bodies stiffened, and strands of blood gushed out of their 7 orifices. Soon, several Jin soldiers turned into mummies and fell to the ground. All their blood was squeezed by Qin, turning into a ball of rapidly swirling blood, spinning on Qin's fingertips. Shouts of killing came from an alley. A small group of Jin soldiers rushed out of the alley chasing 2 Song people. One of them was a beautiful girl, about 14 or 15 years old, dressed in quite luxurious clothes. The other was her guard, who had been hit by several arrows, but still fought bravely to protect her escape. This guard was obviously quite powerful. He wielded a waist knife like a windmill. Several Jin soldiers who rushed to the front were either chopped down or kicked away. However, the Jin soldiers behind him fired strong bows and crossbows, and the guard was obviously unable to resist. He had to protect the girl behind him, so he couldn't use his light skills to dodge, and soon he was hit by 2 arrows again. What a loyal warrior who protects the master. And that girl, she seems to be about the same age as Christina. Qin sighed lightly and pointed her fingertips. The blood ball gathered at her fingertips flew out with a whistling sound and landed around the group of Jin soldiers and crossbowmen. With a loud bang, the blood ball exploded, and a circle of blood-colored ripples spread rapidly. Screams rang out, and the archers of the Jin soldiers were killed one after another. The noble girl and the guards escaped danger temporarily and hurried over to thank Qin. Thank you for saving my life. My name is Zhongli, the captain of the Imperial Guards, and this noble lady is the current emperor's sister, Princess Ningfu. The beautiful girl immediately bowed and saluted. Her face was miserable. I am Zhao Chuanzhu, and I beg you to save me. I will repay you for your great kindness. So she is a princess of the royal family. Qin had received the main task and the prompt to choose a camp. She said calmly, I came out this time to save the bloodline of the Han family. Since you are a member of the royal family, I will keep you safe. General Li led the way. When Princess Zhao Chuanzhu heard the words save the bloodline of the Han family, her eyes lit up and she said hurriedly, the Jin people are hateful. They abducted the royal family and headed north. Now it is difficult to catch up. But I have a younger brother who is hiding in the palace. I hope you can rescue him. Chapter 483 Sandstorm Mage. Ancient Ruins of Nasidus. In an inverted old manner. These earth spirits, although they have thick skin and flesh, are slow in movement and much easier to deal with than those red sand ghosts. Tom's long stick smashed the shell of the last earth spirit, picked up a dull yellow core from it, and handed it to Bai Pu. Bai Pu took it. This yellow core, about the size of a thumb, is the magic core of the earth spirit. Earth spirits are a kind of humanoid monsters with earth attributes, a bit like the dwarves in traditional Western fantasy novels. Both of them are short and sturdy. The difference is that the body of the earth spirit is made of living rocks. Compared with the traditional dwarves, they lack intelligence and only rely on instinct to act, so they are classified as monsters. Obviously, in the safe period after the blood moon ends, the enemies in the mausoleum have become these earth spirits. However, these earth spirit magic cores, which are only at the warrior level, are too inferior for Bai Pu. He threw them to Tom and did not intend to use them to refine the seeds of magic. Tanyu, do you know the origin of these earth spirits? It seems that they can't be killed. Every time an adventurer comes to the ruins, he kills a large number of earth spirits. Tom has studied the data of the ancient ruins of Nasidus and is very interested in earth spirits. Because the earth spirits in the ancient ruins of Nasidus are really burned by wildfires, and reborn in the spring breeze, growing one after another. Tanyu said seriously, legend has it that the earth spirits are servants formed by the mana residue of the holy dragon king Aurelian. Haha, how is this possible? The battle between Aurelian and Surgur has been over for thousands of years. Tom smiled and shook his head. What kind of mana can last for thousands of years without dissipating? It's impossible for mana, but if the prismatic Holy Dragon King left behind ancient relics, it's hard to say. Bai Pu said. Tom was startled, then nodded, that's right. If there is an ancient relic of the Holy Dragon King, and it happens to be a treasure of earth or wind attribute, can I use it to cultivate the seeds of magic power? Bai Pu wanted to confirm the feasibility. Impossible, the ancient relics are inhabited by divine power, and mortals cannot refine ancient relics. They can only try to get the recognition of the relics. Tom said confidently. The group continued to explore, passing through many areas of the ancient ruins, and finally came to the ancient fountain square. However, in this fountain square, the base of the fountain is above the head and has long been dry. In front of the ancient fountain square, inverted version, you can see a flat courtyard wall and an inverted gate. That is the sacrificial tower of the Red Sand Kingdom. The target this time, the Lost Scepter, is located on the top of the sacrificial tower. Of course, it was the top of the sacrificial tower thousands of years ago. Now that the city is upside down, the top of the sacrificial tower has naturally become the deepest underground of the ruins. The group entered the collapsed sacrificial tower and walked down the opposite side of the former circular steps to the base of the sacrificial tower. This sacrificial tower was very spacious, and each floor was like a hall, without the cramped feeling of ordinary towers. Daizong followed silently. Suddenly, Bai Pu raised his eyebrows, and he noticed a slight vibration from the stone wall next to him. A vague yellow shadow appeared on the stone wall, and then quickly solidified into an earth spirit. At the same time, the figures of earth spirits emerged from the stone wall, the ceiling, and even the circular steps under his feet. It's these cockroaches again. Tom pulled out his war stick in a bad mood, chanted a speed-up magic of breath of wind to himself, and then swung the stick. Isana also made the same move. Be careful, the big one is coming. Before Bai Pu finished speaking, the invisible quicksand suddenly surged up and gathered into two yellow sand hands, suddenly grabbing Tom and Isana. Tom had been too careless before and only used the acceleration magic without using the magic shield. He was suddenly caught at this time, and his body was squeezed by the yellow sand and creaked, and his health was constantly lost. Isana was luckier and put on the radiant demon repelling barrier in advance. But even so, the radiant barrier on her body began to show fine cracks. After all, the two of them were too inexperienced. While they were busy dealing with the earth spirits, they were successfully attacked by the yellow sand hand. Now they can only rely on Bai Pu to save them. However, Bai Pu held a two-handed sword and did not attack the yellow sand hand directly. Instead, he jumped up and let the third yellow sand hand attack, and stepped on the inner wall of the tower for several steps. Then, like an eagle, he chopped down the dark corner of the tower with a sword wrapped in a terrible whistle. The ultimate skill of collapsing mountains, mountains collapsing and the earth cracking. In the dark, a tall, thin and shriveled mummy wrapped in bandages waved his staff in his hand, and quickly turned into sand and dissipated on the spot. Bai Pu could see the fighting power of this mummy at a glance. 397, probably the level of a level 8 enhanced warrior? It is unlikely to be a level 7 lord, otherwise even the students of the 3rd and 4th periods of the God of War Peak would find it difficult to complete this task. With the same attributes, a level 7 lord is much stronger than a level 8 enhanced warrior. In any case, with such high attributes, it is very likely to be the sandstorm wizard that Bai Pu is looking for. Before Bai Pu's sword hit, the staff mummy had already dived into the ground. This is its skill, sand and dust burrowing technique. However, Bai Pu's sword is actually an ultimate skill, landslide and earth crack. Even if the sword misses, the landslide and earth crack will still infuse a large amount of blood river fighting spirit into the land in front of it when it hits the ground, and then, it will erupt violently. With a loud bang, sand and soil filled the air, and the tall and thin mummy was shaken out and flew into the air with his hands and feet dancing. Being knocked into the air, the two yellow sand hands controlled by the tall and thin mummy naturally lost their magic support and turned into primitive yellow sand and scattered down. Your ultimate skill, landslide, caused 611 points of shock damage to the sandstorm mage and made him fall into a state of being knocked into the air. It really is the sandstorm mage. Then is the lost scepter in his hand? Tom, Isana, let me deal with this guy alone. Bai Pu was afraid that the two would come to contaminate the treasure chest, so he quickly found an excuse. You go deal with those earth spirits, don't let them hinder me. Tom and the others also believed in Bai Pu's judgment. This group of earth spirits was most likely controlled by the tall and thin mummy, so they suddenly ran out to attack. As long as the earth spirits were dealt with, Bai Pu's pressure would naturally be relieved. As he spoke, Bai Pu had already slashed across with a sword, and the sword tip shone with a bloody light, and the shadow of a mountain collapse was faintly flashing. Ling. Bai Pu's sword did not break the skin or flesh. Instead, it was like a volleyball smash, which blew the sandstorm mage's body away and crashed into the rock wall. Chapter 484 Twin Sacrifice. Sandstorm mage's passive skill, Quicksand Shell takes effect, absorbing 500 damage. Your mountain collapse secret passive special effect is triggered, and the durability of the Quicksand Shell is greatly reduced. When Bai Pu slashed with a greatsword, he felt that the surface of the sandstorm mage was like a large ball filled with air, with strong elasticity. The sword should have broken through the skin and flesh, causing sharp damage, but in the end it was forcibly transformed into blunt damage covering the whole body, as if the greatsword turned into a stick and smashed the sandstorm mage out. The sandstorm mage slowly climbed up, and his haggard face had cracks like broken porcelain, and small pieces of debris fell off. At the same time, the sandstorm mage muttered obscure spells, and invisible sands flew to its body surface, repairing the cracks on its surface. Is this the Quicksand Shell? It looks like it has a high defense. Bai Pu smiled. The mountain collapse secret destroys the opponent's shield and armor, and is best at frontal assaults. Just a single blow from the mountain collapse secret art had caused the sandstorm mage's Quicksand Shell to show signs of collapse. Obviously, this boss might be unsolvable for Tom and the others, and they could only fight hard and consume it. But for Bai Pu, it was not a problem at all. However, just as Bai Pu was stepping in pursuit, a warning sign suddenly appeared behind him. Bai Pu clearly felt the attack from behind through the vibration of the earth. His feet flashed, and the thunderous sound exploded, and he had already moved several feet sideways. There was a crash in his ears, and a big hand of yellow sand slapped from behind Bai Pu and landed on the point where Bai Pu was a second ago. Isana exclaimed, "Another one." Not far behind Bai Pu, another tall and thin mummy appeared. It looked almost exactly the same as the sandstorm mage that Bai Pu had just attacked. Illusion? Clone? Or a new boss? Bai Pu glanced over, and, strong enemy sense, directly gave the opponent's combat power value 402. The combat power value is different from that of the first sandstorm mage. The first one is 397. In other words, this should be a new boss. Tanyu, who was huddled in the corner, murmured, "Twin priests." That's right, this is the core sacrificial tower of the ancestral mausoleum. The ancestors of the Red Sand Kingdom will select identical twin priests to jointly defend the secret treasure of the Red Sand Kingdom. The word secret treasure deeply stimulated Tom. He swung his long stick and knocked over an earth spirit, saying, "Dio. You deal with the first sandstorm mage first, and we will help you hold the second one. We will share the secret treasure." Bai Pu glanced at Tanyu. This guide was too incompetent. He didn't even say this earlier. He agreed, leaving Tom and Asana to fight with the second sandstorm mage, and stepped on the gang step to speed up. However, Sandstorm Mage number 1 accurately predicted the landing point of Bai Pu's gang step, raised his hand and cast a small skill, Quicksand. Reshape the designated ground into quicksand. Bai Pu's foot, which was originally on the hard stone surface, stepped into the quicksand and instantly sank up to his thigh. You are affected by the quicksand spell, and your movement speed is reduced by 55 points. You cannot use any sprint-type acceleration abilities with a priority of 8 or less. This deceleration effect will disappear after you leave the quicksand spell range. Bai Pu instinctively launched a gangbu, but the Blood River fighting spirit poured into his feet, and he sank deep into the gravel, which only slightly loosened the surrounding gravel, and then returned to a dense squeeze state. The priority is still not high enough. Whether it is Gangbu or Gangfang Luoran, Bai Pu's skills are only sprint skills with a priority of 8, and are restrained by the quicksand spell. Bai Pu could only move helplessly, struggling to move forward in the thigh-deep gravel. Sandstorm Mage number 1 was already muttering a spell, and the staff in his hand was waving at the same time, outlining a complex pattern of multiple overlapping quadrilaterals, obviously wanting to give Bai Pu a big blow. The surrounding yellow sand surged, forming 4 high walls like a tsunami, trying to bury Bai Pu. Bai Pu stopped struggling. He raised his palm towards the Sandstorm Mage and clenched it suddenly. Although I can't rush over. but I can let you come over. Lasso attack launched. Bai Pu didn't use the lasso attack directly just now, but waited until the sandstorm mage chanted to the keynote before attacking. The purpose is to make the sandstorm mage unable to dodge. Sure enough, first there was the suppression special effect of the collapse of the mountain, and then there was the overbearing dragon force. Sandstorm mage number 1 was caught by Bai Pu without any resistance. Bai Pu, who is well prepared, started with a landslide. The powerful fighting energy exploded in the body of the sandstorm mage. Along with the illusion of the collapse of the mountain, the quicksand shell on the surface of the sandstorm mage's body, like fragile porcelain, scattered all over the ground. Its shriveled black chest was blasted with a big hole by the chainsaw sword, and the dried flesh fibers were scattered. After Bai Pu launched this attack, he took advantage of the lasso's effect and swung his sword again. This time, he used the secret of the strong wind, and the strong wind began to gather and form. The sandstorm mage had just woken up from the suppression when he was picked up by Bai Pu's three-part world, and fell heavily to the ground. He fell into a state of stiffness again and struggled to get up. Then the sandstorm mage turned into Yellow Sand Arrow and tried to rush out of Bai Pu's Blood River territory. But the same dilemma as Bai Pu appeared. The Yellow Sand Arrow just condensed and dissipated. Within the Blood River territory, sprint-type displacement skills with a priority of no more than 8 points are also ineffective. The sandstorm mage could originally resist part of the deceleration effect through the energy of the quicksand shell, but with its quicksand shell broken, it now has to take all the deceleration. At this time, its reduced movement speed value is as high as 66. Bai Pu's great sword hid him unceremoniously, and the sandstorm mage could only rely on instant earth magic to fight back. Fortunately, he had practiced a special expertise of magic chanting, bites omitted, otherwise he would have been slaughtered. But now it is not much better, because the instant earth magic that can be cast through bites omitted is generally just the basic magic in the world of fighting demons, such as Earth Shield, Rockfall, Rocklance, Quicksand. 4 small shield skills, Bai Pu directly shattered them with the secret of collapsing mountains. For basic earth damage spells such as Rockfall and Rocklance, Bai Pu relied on adaptive evolution to fight hard. Auxiliary spells such as Quicksand were originally the most threatening, but Bai Pu was already inside the quicksand area at this time, and the effects of repeated casting by the sandstorm mage would not be superimposed, but would only refresh the duration of the quicksand area. Chapter 485, A Gift for All the Adults. Bai Pu's sword slashed out several gusts of wind in succession, and the last sword followed the trajectory of the wind. Under the infusion of the Blood River's fighting spirit, a storm eye took shape. A terrible suction force emerged, and the sandstorm mage's remaining mobility within the Blood River territory was completely wiped out. He was even sucked into the storm eye, and the spacewalk spectacle of running forward and floating backward appeared again. In this state, the sandstorm mage couldn't even cast instant spells, and could only be regarded as an incompetent sandbag. Its 10,080 health points couldn't last long under Bai Pu's sword. This is because the sandstorm mage's own endurance attribute is not high, so the armor is naturally low. Its health points of over 10,000 points have 8,000 points from the world beacon bonus of its own template. Excluding these, its own health points are only 2,080 points. With a hoarse roar, the last bit of the sandstorm mage's health points were drained by the Blood River territory, and turned into a handful of yellow sand wrapped in bandages. A large golden treasure chest was suspended in front of Bai Pu. Bai Pu picked up the treasure chest and tried to move his feet, finally leaving the quicksand area. He regained his freedom and immediately rushed to Sandstorm Mage number 2. At this time, Sandstorm Mage number 2 was fighting fiercely with Torm and Asana. The strong defense of the quicksand shell made the 2 first-year students of Gajetsun almost helpless. This Lost Scepter mission was originally arranged for low-level students of the God of War Peak. At least they had to be the top students among the senior students of the Gajetsun Academy headquarters. It was an over-the-top question for Torm and the others. Torm and the others each had their own hidden tricks, which were their own family heirlooms. But when they used their family heirlooms, they only bypassed a 500 points of damage absorption of the quicksand shell and caused hundreds of points of damage to Sandstorm Mage number 2. The trick could not be used as a normal attack, and the hundreds of points of damage caused were fully restored by Sandstorm Mage number 2 within the next few minutes of fighting. Therefore, it is impossible to kill Sandstorm Mage number 2 by relying on the strength of the 2 of them, and we can only place our hopes on Bai Pu. Fortunately, Bai Pu lived up to expectations. Seeing Bai Pu chopping off Sandstorm Mage number 1 in a few minutes, Tom was very excited. He knew that he had made the right bet. This thigh was a real golden thigh. The demon palace of the god of war Peak, here I come. Swish, the Blood River territory swept over and included Sandstorm Mage number 2. Bai Pu's steady voice sounded, Tom, go and see the remains of the first mummy, and check if the one that fell next to its remains is the lost scepter. Isana, you continue to deal with the earth spirits, and don't let these minions affect me. The two agreed in unison. Although Bai Pu's real purpose was to prevent the two from continuing to pollute the treasure chest of Sandstorm Mage number 2, the two had no doubts. The main reason was that their output was limited, and the mysteries they had comprehended were not of the type of attack, so they could only sigh helplessly in the face of the quicksand shell. From Bai Pu's perspective, after using the mountain collapse secret to shatter the quicksand shell, Tom and Isana will be able to play effective damage. But this means that the two natives' contribution to the battle will increase, and Bai Pu will only get a water tank in the end. He will definitely not be happy, unless Bai Pu can't kill Sandstorm Mage number 2 with his personal strength. Now, Bai Pu has sufficient supplies. He drank a bottle of strong energy potion before coming here. Now that the Blood River's fighting spirit has been pulled to about 90%, it is more than enough to deal with Sandstorm Mage number 2. Not to mention that Daizong is next to him, Bai Pu doesn't have to worry about the sneak attack of Zilao and Xianling. With such a favorable time, place and people, it is natural to get a treasure chest of full quality. Not long after, as Sandstorm Mage number 2 turned into yellow sands and drifted away, the battle ended. And Isana and Tom had already dealt with the other earth spirits. Dio, there is good news and bad news. Tom sighed, came to Bai Pu, and handed him a yellow irregular sphere. Let me tell you the good news first. This is the sandstorm core, which was found in the mummy just now. It contains two different sources of magic, earth and wind, which allow you to cultivate the magic seeds of both earth and wind at the same time. Isana on the side added, although this composite magic core is not as good as a single attribute one, this mummy monster is very powerful and is close to the level of a super magician. The magic seeds you cultivate will definitely not be bad. Bai Pu asked, 2 mummies should produce 2 sandstorm cores, right? No, only 1. Not all magical beasts have magic cores in their bodies, and this ancient mummy is no exception. Tom explained, some scholars have studied the reason. It is because some magical beasts will erase the natural magic circuits in their bodies before they die, and the magic core will also turn into magic energy and dissipate between heaven and earth. Bai Pu nodded, okay, getting a sandstorm core is good news. What about the bad news? The bad news is that the staffs held by the 2 mummy priests do not meet the characteristics of the lost scepter in the task description. Tom took Bai Pu to check the 2 staffs and took out the comparison pictures for verification. Bai Pu was very curious about where the comparison pictures came from, but Tom said he didn't know either. Maybe it was left by a teacher who studied the history of the ancient Chisha dynasty. At this moment, Tanyu suddenly came over timidly. My lords, can you let me see these 2 staffs? Bai Pu's heart moved. Tanyu was a survivor of the Chisha dynasty and might know something about it. Here, be careful not to damage it. This thing is a cultural relic and should be able to sell for a lot of gold coins. Tom handed the 2 staffs to Tanyu. Tanyu took the 2 staffs and climbed up the wall to the ceiling, that is, the top floor of the sacrificial tower thousands of years ago, and carefully approached the ancient altar hanging upside down on the ceiling. He inserted the 2 staffs into the holes on the left and right of the altar. A wonderful scene appeared. The 2 staffs emitted red light at the same time, and then deeply inserted into the hole of the altar. The next second, a rumbling sound came from the wall of the sacrificial tower in front of everyone. The wall was split into 2 along the ancient relief pattern, revealing a hall inside. The golden light poured out, so bright that everyone couldn't open their eyes. They blinked several times before they got used to it. My lords, this is the secret treasure hidden in Chisha, the ancient sacrificial scepter, and the national treasure of the Chisha kingdom, the Earth Dragon Ball. Tanyu jumped down from the ceiling and said respectfully. Tanyu, why are you telling us this? Bai Pu narrowed his eyes, thinking that something was not simple. Tanyu said frustratedly, I have been remembered by the leader of the Chisha Defense Army. There is no place for me in the tribe in the future. I can only beg you to take me in. This secret treasure of the Chisha kingdom is my gift to you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486, Brahma Town. Well, that's no problem. I can take you to Gadgetzan City and find you a job. Tom was dazzled by the golden light inside the hall and swallowed his saliva. There were actually only two things on display in the hall. The Lost Scepter was located in the center of the hall. Next to the Lost Scepter was the source of infinite golden light, the Earth Dragon Ball. The Earth Dragon Ball was about the size of a fist, and its surface was golden, as if endless energy was overflowing from it. The Earth Dragon Ball should be an ancient relic. I'm rich, Tom said excitedly, and immediately stepped into the hall. However, after Tom entered the range of the golden light, something strange happened. The originally dazzling golden light turned into golden arrows after Tom entered. Tom waved his war stick to try to block it, but these golden arrows, like the power of true red, ignored any parrying and blocking actions, and even Tom's own fighting spirit defense was penetrated and shot straight into the body. Tom screamed and tried to retreat, but an inexplicably strong suction force made it difficult for him to move. At the critical moment, Bai Pu took action and dragged Tom back with a lasso. There were several blood holes on Tom's body, all of which were scars caused by the golden arrows. The strange thing was that no blood flowed out of the blood holes, as if it was swallowed and annihilated by an invisible force. Although there was no bleeding, the side effect was quite bad. Tom's upper limit of health value dropped and could not be restored by potions. Bai Pu noticed that Tom's upper limit of health value dropped by more than 5,000 points. If calculated in terms of conversion, each golden arrow just now could actually knock down 1,000 points of upper limit of health value, which was really terrifying. How is it, Tom? Isana was a little worried and cast the recovery magic of the life spirit system to try to heal Tom. However, the green light of the recovery magic would be swallowed by the invisible force when it approached the blood holes on Tom's body, and it would not be able to heal the wound. It's useless. I feel an invisible annihilation force in the wound. I can only rely on my own fighting spirit to slowly neutralize it. Tom took a breath and said with some fear, fortunately, I left the coverage area of the Earth Dragon Ball. The annihilation force is already a sourceless water. I guess it will take a few hours to recover. Is the Earth Dragon Ball so powerful? Isana frowned. I'm very curious why the Lost Scepter is placed in such a dangerous place. This Lost Scepter mission shouldn't be that scary. Everyone knew the danger of the scene just now. Each arrow of the golden light caused the collapse of the upper limit of 1,000 health points, and there was a strong suction force to prevent the entrant from escaping. If a single person enters this secret treasure hall, and there is no one outside to help pull a hand, it can only be a dead end. This kind of dangerous design, let alone Tom and Isana, two first-year students, even the head of the third-year students cannot complete it alone. Under normal circumstances, the academy will not arrange such a dangerous task. What a pity, the quest item is right in front of us. Isana was a little unwilling. Tom suddenly smiled and said half-jokingly, Dio, that Earth Dragon Ball is definitely the best source of magic power. If you use it to cultivate the magic seed, you will probably quickly skip the primary and intermediate magician stages and directly reach the magic level of a senior magician. There is also great hope for you to be promoted to a super magician in the future. The magician level of the Downmo continent is like this. Every super magician is a lord-level template. Now Tom and Isana are both intermediate magicians, but they are quite close to the advanced level. And the two exchange students of Lorich, Ryan and Amaral, are stronger and are both advanced magicians. If I can get it, the Earth Dragon Ball belongs to me. Bai Pu was communicating with Tom quite seriously. Dio, it's too dangerous. Isana quickly stopped him. At worst, we can just give up this mission. I'm still confident. Bai Pu said. To be honest, it's all your credit that we were able to get here and even defeat the twin priests. If you can get the Earth Dragon Ball and it belongs to you, I definitely have no objection. Tom said seriously. Okay, what about Isana? Bai Pu asked the flat girl. I have no objection either, but Dio, you have to think carefully. Isana said with concern. Bai Pu smiled. As long as you have the ability to pull me out in time, I have no problem. In the life and spirit magic, there is an unpopular spell called Psychic Traction, which can pull you here with your consent. Asana said, "Just plant a mental mark on you in advance." Bai Pu took a look and found that along the way, Asana's favorability towards him had exceeded 1,000 points, reaching the level of a friend, 1966, 3,000. Bai Pu still trusted the digital prompts of the spirit world's will. He asked Asana to plant a mark on his back, and then strode towards the secret treasure hall. Before entering the secret treasure hall, Bai Pu suddenly turned his head and looked at the guide. "Tanyu, you have given us such a secret treasure, so you have no other requirements." Tanyu shook his head. Bai Pu nodded to Asana, then took a careful step and entered the secret treasure hall. The dazzling golden light suddenly turned into a golden arrow. An arrow shot over and pierced Bai Pu's arm, leaving a bloody hole. At the same time, the reminder of the spirit world came: "You are affected by the Brahma Town domain and cannot use any sprint-type displacement skills with a priority not exceeding 10. If you try to leave the Brahma Town domain, you will be pulled by the town's gravity. The light of annihilation caused you 1,000 points of true damage. This damage is directly converted into a deduction from the upper limit of health and cannot be parried or blocked. Bai Pu's upper limit of health was deducted by 1,000 points, leaving only 4,350 points. However, after taking a shot of light of annihilation, Bai Pu's adaptive evolution was activated and collected a new evolution state, withered skin. Bai Pu immediately switched. His skin turned gray, like a sandstorm wizard, turning into dry membranes and muscle fibers. The second annihilation light shot out and landed on Bai Pu. The true damage priority of the annihilation light is 10 points. Priority confrontation. Your adaptive evolution withered skin damage reduction ability takes effect. The true damage of the annihilation light is reduced by 50%, and the time that the annihilation energy stays in your body is shortened by 50%. Bai Pu took the second annihilation arrow, and his upper limit of health was reduced to 3,850 points. The single damage has been reduced to 500 points. Bai Pu breathed a sigh of relief and immediately activated the volcanic appearance. Chapter 487, Aurelian's Dragon Ball. With Bai Pu's current 133 points of endurance, the shield formed by Volcano's face can absorb 878 points of damage. He can also call on the Blood River Daoki at any time to replenish the energy of the Volcano's face shield. This is Bai Pu's confidence. The shield will inherit all of Bai Pu's activated damage reduction abilities, including but not limited to talents, equipment enhancement, armor magic resistance, etc. Of course, facing the 10 points of real damage of the Light of Annihilation, Bai Pu's only effective means of damage reduction is adaptive evolution withered skin. Each shot of the Light of Annihilation deals 500 points of real damage. However, it is still a long way from breaking Bai Pu's Volcano's face shield. As long as Bai Pu is not hit by 2 shots of the Light of Annihilation within 1 second, he can call on the Blood River Daoki at any time to replenish the lost shield value. Others in the Brahma Town will panic because the damage of the Light of Annihilation is too high, and their eyes are dazzled by the endless golden light. Bai Pu reduced the damage of the Light of Annihilation, and then used the ultimate skill Volcano's face to greatly improve the fault tolerance. In addition, he had a strong observation ability, so he could calmly observe the direction of the annihilation light. He would hide if he could, and when there was no place to hide from the golden light that was sweeping over him, he would take one of the shots. In this way, Bai Pu gradually approached the position of the scepter and the Earth Dragon Ball step by step. His volcanic shield was once shaken by the annihilation light, but he always held on. Finally, Bai Pu came to the scepter and the Earth Dragon Ball. He stretched out both hands and touched the 2 secret treasures suspended in the air. The ancient scepter fell directly into Bai Pu's hands without any trouble. However, the Earth Dragon Ball gave off a great resistance and kept struggling in Bai Pu's hands, like a live fish. You try to obtain the ancient relic, the Dragon Ball, Earth, of the prismatic Holy Dragon King Aurelian. You need to pass the test of the Dragon Ball. In the next 10 seconds, you will be completely suppressed by the Brahma Town, unable to change your position, either actively or passively, and will be subjected to an explosion of annihilation light every second. The power of the explosion of annihilation light is 150% of the standard power. If you pass the test of the Dragon Ball, you will obtain the ownership of this ancient relic. Bai Pu took a deep breath and refilled the shield of the volcanic appearance again. He felt that the space around him seemed to be materialized, and he was like a mosquito trapped in amber. It took a lot of effort to move his hands and feet or speak a word, not to mention moving. Outside, Asana activated the mind pull magic as soon as possible, trying to pull Bai Pu to her side. However, this magic failed directly. The reason is very simple: the priority is completely suppressed by the Dragon Ball. What should I do? Asana asked in panic. Teacher Hercules, can you save me? Tom was also nervous. In their eyes, Bai Pu was imprisoned beside the Earth Dragon Pearl, and one after another, the golden arrows that were obviously getting thicker and stronger shot towards Bai Pu. The red Dao Qi shield on Bai Pu's body was on the verge of breaking under the impact of these enhanced golden arrows, and all Bai Pu could do was to continuously increase the injection of Blood River Dao Qi to maintain the existence of the Dao Qi shield. Daizong shook his head. I can't save him either, I can only rely on his fate. Daizong actually knew in his heart that Bai Pu looked dangerous, but in fact it was not. How could a first-generation master of the borderland fall so easily? If he really couldn't hold on, Bai Pu would naturally flee this world and return to his own borderland as soon as possible. To kill Bai Pu, unless the top strong among the Aborigines took action and used the space-blocking ability with a priority of 10 points. Of course, in the Civil War of the Awakened, bloody props or military rank suppression can be used to block Bai Pu's authority to return to the borderland. This is also the most cautious place for Bai Pu when exploring the spirit world. Bai Pu, who is in the center of Brahma Town, tried to maintain the existence of the shield. Now the power of the Light of Annihilation has increased to 1,500 points of real damage. Even if it is reduced by 50% by Bai Pu's adaptive evolution talent, it is still 750 points of real damage. And Bai Pu's volcano shield value is 878 points. Almost every second, the volcano shield is on the verge of breaking, and then Bai Pu tries to inject Blood River Fighting Spirit to fill it up. For Bai Pu, this can only be described in 2 words: squeeze. Bai Pu felt like he was in a millstone. As the millstone turned, layers of pressure came from all directions. As long as it was released in one breath, the result would be the shield breaking and the person dying. Bai Pu never felt that 10 seconds would be so long. Finally, Bai Pu counted silently, and 10 seconds passed. The Earth Dragon Ball stopped struggling, and Bai Pu quickly put it away. Brahma Town seemed to have lost the source of power, and its power quickly declined and even dissipated. Bai Pu found that he could move. His mind raced, and without waiting for Asana's mind-pulling magic, he directly used the gang step and rushed out of the secret treasure hall in the thunderous explosion. Dio, are you okay? Tom and Asana both breathed a sigh of relief and surrounded him and asked. Go. Follow me. After shouting this to Tom and others, Bai Pu knocked out the god Tangyu with a knife, picked him up, and ran away along the way they came. Tom and Asana looked at each other, but they only hesitated for a moment, and then followed Bai Pu to escape. While escaping, Tom looked back. In the center of the secret treasure hall, the golden Brahma's power of the realm had completely retreated. A little red mist slowly overflowed from the void. The void was like transparent glass, with small pores appearing, and a few cracks continued to expand. Boom! With a loud bang, the space confinement was broken, and the boundless red mist rushed out, sweeping the entire secret treasure hall, and then broke through the door of the secret treasure hall and poured out. Bai Pu and his group fled for their lives, and behind them was the surging red mist, chasing them like a rising tide. What spread before the red mist was an invisible suppressing force. You are affected by the true Red Town domain. You cannot use sprint-type displacement skills below priority 10, and you cannot use any ultimate abilities. Not only Bai Pu's ultimate abilities were suppressed, but also Daizong. The red mist washed over the rooms of the underground ruins. One by one, the red sands ghosts woke up in the red mist, like demons riding the red tide, and silently roared at Bai Pu and others. What should we do? The red fog is too fast, we don't have time to run to the exit. Tom swallowed his saliva. His ultimate ability was also suppressed. He didn't dare to turn around and face the group of red sands ghosts blessed by the power of the true red. Chapter 488. Do you think I am a god? Bai Pu threw the guide on his shoulder to Daizong. Daizong? Question mark? Teacher Hercules, keep an eye on this guy, he must know something. Bai Pu said. I understand the reason, but why do I have to carry it? Daizong said with a smile. Daizong's attitude towards Bai Pu had a hint of equal dialogue. In the world of awakeners, seniority and age are false, only strength is real. Even Daizong himself did not have the confidence to persist in the terrible Brahma town for so long. Bai Pu could do it, so Daizong would certainly not regard him as a junior. Where we are now, the surface above our heads is a sand dune. From the dome to the surface, it is about 20 meters. Bai Pu answered the question irrelevantly, and asked Daizong in return, with the strength of teacher Hercules, "Can you break through this 20-meter sandstone layer?" Daizong shook his head speechlessly. "Do you think I am a god? Indeed, it is difficult to do it when the secret is sealed." Bai Pu's footsteps did not stop, and he continued, "But the terrain above our heads is also constantly changing. 120 meters ahead, it corresponds to a rift terrain on the surface. According to my visual observation at the time, the depth of the rift exceeded 15 meters. Are you sure?" Daizong was refreshed. He did not want to fight with a group of perverted red sands ghosts in this Hanhong town, mainly because his secret was sealed and his combat effectiveness dropped by at least half. If what Bai Pu said was true, the thickness of the sandstone layer from the dome to the surface at that location was only about 5 meters. Even without the secret enhancement, Daizong was confident that he could break through it and escape from the ruins in advance. But the question is Bai Pu really that powerful? Can he recall the surface topography of the relevant location under the ruins? Yes, I'm sure. When Bai Pu came to the Chisha tribe and was looking for a guide, he had already silently memorized the topography of the dozens of miles around the entrance of the ruins, especially the cracks and deep valleys. The direction and length from the entrance of the ruins were carefully calculated. "It's here." Bai Pu stopped and pointed to the dome. "There is no other choice now. I trust you once." Daizong threw the guide Tenyu back to Bai Pu, pulled out the dark battle axe, and squatted slightly. On his body, there were layers of red light gathering. This was not the light of fighting spirit, but the blood and energy that Daizong was surging when he was accumulating power. With the evaporation of the tiny sweat on his body, a strange appearance was formed. After accumulating power for about 2 seconds, Daizong suddenly jumped up. Like a rocket launch, the huge reverse thrust was transmitted along the ground. Bai Pu and others clearly felt the ground shaking. Daizong jumped under the dome and chopped it with an axe. At the moment the axe and the dome came into contact, the stone ceiling of the dome collapsed like a castle made of sand. The blood energy of the explosion penetrated the surface of the earth, piercing the fine sand layer accumulated for thousands of years. Hualala! The quicksand rushed down like a waterfall, quickly pouring into the newly appeared crack underground. Go! After Daizong landed, he bounced again, like a kangaroo, breaking through the quicksand waterfall and escaping back to the surface. Bai Pu couldn't use Gangbu at this time, but his physical attributes were strong. While Daizong broke through the quicksand, he threw the guide Tenyu up first, jumped up immediately, and also escaped. Tom and Asana behind him also followed. The 4 people had just escaped through the split hole, and the red mist shot out through the crack just now, like a raging volcano that finally found a breakthrough. There was nothing to say. Bai Pu and others could only continue to run for their lives. Fortunately, after they left the range of the ruins, the power of this Hanhong town was no longer affected, and they could use various acceleration and sprint skills. "Stop, you bunch of thieves!" A team of red sand guards patrolled over and found Bai Pu and others. Although they were surprised that these people had escaped under the blood moon, it was obviously not the time to be surprised, so they immediately stopped in front of Bai Pu and others. One of the desert survivors took out a horn and blew it. "It's bad, there are a lot of red sand guards. If we surround them, it will delay us for a lot of time." Tom was still afraid of the rain of scimitars. Bai Pu was also uneasy. His blood river fighting spirit was on the verge of drying up, and his combat effectiveness was only 1/10 of what he had. It was very difficult for him to escape, and he could not continue to participate in the battle. What's more, as long as the red sand guards stopped them from escaping, the red fog of this Hanhong town behind them would catch up, and they would still be doomed. "Charge forward," Daizong said in a deep voice. At this time, he didn't care much. Obviously, the strange red fog was beyond the coping limit of several first-year students and was an unplanned situation. Daizong slightly bent down to accumulate strength, and crashed out like a heavy truck. This collision actually reminded Bai Pu of the brutal collision of the leader of the Diplodocus in the giant fern mountain. The styles of the two were so similar, both full of the heroic feeling of going forward without hesitation and defeating anyone who stood in their way. However, Daizong was more fierce, more evil, and more terrifying than the Diplodocus. Several red sand guards threw scimitars, but before the scimitars touched Daizong's body, They were shaken loose and powerless by the strong blood on Daizong's body. The giant beast leather armor on Daizong's shoulder, which was full of wild aura, was obviously not an ordinary equipment. After the scimitar thrown over was greatly reduced in force, it was further bounced away by the giant beast leather armor. The terrifying scimitar throwing skill did not cause any damage to Daizong. Although this was also due to the small number of enemies and the lack of scale suppression, Daizong's strength as a top strongman was still evident. Daizong followed and killed into the crowd. He did not try to grab or hit them, but just this collision caused all the members of the Red Sand Guards to fall out. Bai Pu and others followed closely behind. Several Red Sand Guards were knocked unconscious by Daizong, and their bodies seemed to be filled with lead. They could not get up for a long time, and watched the red fog that followed the Rift Valley swallow them up. In the red fog, there were heart-wrenching screams. Bai Pu looked back and his eyes shrank immediately. The blood, flesh and skin of the Red Sand Guards were quickly eroded by the red fog, as if there was an invisible and sinister flame burning on their bodies. Afterwards, only pale skeletons were left, and they fell to the ground with a clatter. Above the pale skeletons, scarlet shadows stood up one by one, and they were the Red Sand Ghosts. So this is how the Red Sand Ghosts came about. Bai Pu narrowed his eyes and looked at the guide Tanyu he was carrying again. Chapter 489, Stop Pretending, Mr. Tanyu. The ancient ruins of Nasidus, several kilometers away, on the back of a sand dune. Bai Pu and his companions sat together. We finally escaped. The strange red fog has a limited coverage area after all. However, the desert tribes near the ruins. I'm afraid they are all doomed. Tom said fearfully. Dio, you seemed to realize something was wrong when you took the Earth Dragon Ball. Isana was more careful and asked immediately, did you know that taking the Earth Dragon Ball would trigger the red fog? If this was true, Isana's favorability towards Bai Pu would definitely be greatly reduced. After all, Bai Pu's behavior indirectly led to the deaths of thousands of people in the desert tribe and permanently changed the pattern of the ancient ruins of Nasidus. Knowing this and still doing it, it can only show that Bai Pu is very selfish. Bai Pu hesitated for a moment and said, I just judged that taking away the Earth Dragon Ball would cause the Blood Moon phenomenon to reappear. But I didn't expect that the red fog could extend to the surface and continue to exert its power. And I didn't expect that a group of desert people were affected so much by the red fog. In that case, it's not your fault. Isana sighed and continued, Dio, things are very strange in this adventure in the ruins. Do you know what the specific situation is? I know your question. In order to answer it, please ask Mr. Tanyu to wake up first. Bai Pu woke up Tanyu. After the desert guide got up, he looked around blankly. Where am I? Don't pretend, Mr. Tanyu. Bai Pu stared at Tanyu. If I'm not mistaken, you should have been to the ancient ruins under the Blood Moon a long time ago, and you were one of the survivors. Tanyu was shocked. No, I haven't been there. Dio, do you have any basis for saying that? Tom asked. Tom, Isana, don't you think it's surprising that the lost scepter appeared in that terrible secret treasure hall? Bai Pu asked back. It's really strange. This mission is recommended by the third-year students and the 4th and 5th batches of the Ares Peak on the Academy list. In other words, the Academy recognizes that the third-year students and the 4th and 5th batches of the Ares Peak are capable of completing this mission. Tom's injury from the Light of Annihilation has not yet fully healed, and he still has lingering fears about the secret treasure hall. Now it seems that it is really difficult for the third-year students and the students who have just entered the Ares Peak to retrieve the scepter from the hall filled with the Light of Annihilation. Each shot has 1,000 points of true damage, and it is almost impossible to drop the upper limit directly. You know, Bai Pu's ultimate shield skill, coupled with a strong endurance attribute, the shield value is much higher than those natives at the enhanced warrior level, but it is only 878 points. The principle of the ultimate shield skill is that if it has not been broken, injecting professional energy can replenish the shield value. But once the shield is broken, it is impossible to activate the ultimate again in a short period of time, and injecting professional energy is out of the question. What's more, after picking up the Earth Dragon Ball and the Lost Scepter, the subsequent red fog erupted, which was more like a huge trap. Would Gajetsun Academy set such a trap as a task for its elite students? It's impossible. The Lost Scepter appeared in the secret treasure hall, which is indeed strange. But what does this have to do with Tanyu? Tom still didn't understand. Daizong suddenly said, he opened the secret treasure hall. Yes, Tenyu actually knew how to open the secret treasure hall, which is very suspicious. He is just an ordinary desert man with weak strength. How could he know the ancient secrets of the Red Sand Kingdom thousands of years ago? Bai Pu said. It seems that I can't hide my identity anymore. In fact, I am a descendant of the Red Sand royal family. Tenyu explained seriously. You lied. If you were a descendant of the royal family, the Red Sand guards would not attack you casually. Moreover, you took the initiative to open the secret treasure hall and offered the secret treasure of the Red Sand Kingdom. Bai Pu exposed Tenyu without hesitation, and then said, you took the initiative to open the secret treasure hall for only one purpose, betting that we would be tempted by the money and take the Earth Dragon Ball. And combined with the strange phenomenon of the red mist erupting after taking the Earth Dragon Ball, I have reason to suspect. You are a believer of the demon god Saragar. The red mist is the power of Saragar. Bai Pu's judgment surprised everyone else. Dio, why do you think so? Isana couldn't figure it out. Do you still remember the ancient legend of this relic? Bai Pu said slowly, thousands of years ago, Aurelian, the holy dragon king of the Dragon Kingdom, and Saragar, one of the 12 demon gods of the underworld, fought a great battle on this land. The holy dragon king's super earthquake caused the earth to turn over, and the city turned into meteorites, burying Saragar. Coincidentally, I have learned some history of gods and demons in the secret treasure house. The gods of the fighting demon continent generally do not really fall. It is 10 or 100 times more difficult to kill a god and completely annihilate his will than to defeat him. So, the Holy Dragon King may not have killed Saragar, but it is more likely that he sealed her. After coming to this relic, I heard rumors about the alternation between the Blood Moon and the Safe Moon, and this speculation had a preliminary basis. And later, after entering the ruins, the early end of the Blood Moon and the re-eruption of the Red Mist all confirmed my speculation. Tom stood up suddenly. You mean, the Blood Moon and the Safe Moon are Saragar's will and the Holy Dragon King's sealing power confronting each other? Yes, it is obvious that the Blood Moon is the active period of Saragar's power, True Red Town, and the Safe Moon is the dormant period of Saragar's power, or the strong period of the Holy Dragon King's power, Brahma Town. During the Blood Moon, we entered the ruins and encountered the Red Sands ghost dominated by Saragar's power, and the fused deformed monster, True Red Executor. The terms in brackets are the special terms that the awakened know through the prompts of the spirit world's will, and the natives do not know. Bai Pu continued, that deformed fusion monster was obviously deliberately shaped by Saragar's will. It has very strong frontal combat capabilities, but its speed is slow, like a huge rolling stone. Its purpose is to force intruders to run deeper into the ruins. You must know that it was during the Blood Moon, and Saragar's power was active. If we ran to the depths of the ruins, we would probably face the will of the demon god. Even the residual will may not be something we can resist. Bai Pu pointed at Tenyu. Becoming a believer of Saragar, like him, should be the best outcome. From now on, we must work hard to help Saragar escape from trouble. Chapter 490 Knocked Out Again. Tom swallowed his saliva. Fortunately, we worked together to kill the deformed monster. After it died, the red fog shrank and the Blood Moon ended ahead of schedule. Was it because of the death of the monster that Saragar's power declined? Isana also joined in. It should be. No wonder Tenyu didn't show any happy expression after discovering that the Blood Moon was over. When we discussed continuing the exploration, he didn't object. I guess he was eager for us to continue going in. Bai Pu nodded. I think that when Principal Bosch designed this mission, he should have investigated the situation. When he came, the Lost Scepter might really be in the hands of the two mummy wizards, Sandstorm Wizards. As long as the two mummy wizards are killed, the Lost Scepter can be obtained. This should be within the ability of the top students in each third grade class, or the 4th and 5th batch students of the God of War Peak. Isana nodded in agreement with Bai Pu's judgment, and Tom asked, who took the scepter from the mummy wizard and put it in the secret treasure hall? Of course it was Saragar's followers, or even Saragar herself. Bai Pu said, Saragar's will was sealed in the secret treasure hall. And that Earth Dragon Ball is not a secret treasure of the Red Sand Kingdom at all, but a relic left by the prismatic Holy Dragon King Aurelian to suppress Saragar, a magic array or something like that. In this way, if Saragar wants to escape, he must let someone take the Earth Dragon Ball away. It placed the most important treasure in the ruins, the lost scepter of Nasidus, next to the Earth Dragon Ball, and then arranged its own followers to lure powerful outsiders to open the secret treasure hall and take away the Earth Dragon Ball. After a pause, Bai Pu continued to add, from this point of view, the monster composed of the red sand ghost, true red executioner, should be regarded as a test. If outsiders can do nothing about it, they can only be driven into the depths of the ruins, controlled by Saragor's will, become new believers, and lure more powerful people here. If outsiders can get rid of it, the blood moon will temporarily end, and the believers who serve as guides, such as Mr. Tanyu, will lead us to the secret treasure hall, take away the scepter, and try to take away the Earth Dragon Ball. Okay, I roughly understand. Now, what should we do with this Tanyu? Tom asked. I'm not interested in him. Whether to kill him or let him go, you decide. Bai Pu gained a lot on this trip. If it weren't for Tanyu, the guide, they would probably have to spend some more time to find the altar mechanism on the ceiling and open the secret treasure hall. Objectively speaking, Tanyu led Bai Pu and others to the Brahma town in the secret treasure hall, which did not cause any loss to Bai Pu and his party. Instead, it saved Bai Pu's precious time by avoiding many detours. So when escaping, Bai Pu still took Tanyu with him as much as possible. I think there is no point in killing him. Just knock him out and leave him here. Isana gave her advice. Tom nodded, looked at Tanyu who was about to say something, and did not give him a chance to speak. He directly knocked him out with a knife. Poor Mr. Tanyu, he has been knocked out many times in recent days. I don't know if you will have any sequelae. However, it is better than losing his life. The group left Tanyu behind and set off immediately, leaving the great desert of Easton. On the way, Bai Pu opened the treasure chests of 2 sandstorm mages. Among them, Sandstorm Mage number 1 was killed by Bai Pu alone. As a level 8 enhanced warrior, Bai Pu's combat evaluation for killing it was pretty good, and he had 3 draw opportunities. As for Sandstorm Mage number 2, although it did not cause much effective damage because of the attacks by Torm and Isana, it still reduced the gold content of the kill. There were only 2 draws, but Bai Pu could eliminate 24 undervalued cards. Bai Pu did not care and directly clicked on the draw. You got equipment, corpse poison vestments, you got gems, wither jewels, you got the secret skill book, magic sand, you got items, mummy bandages, you got 3 gold enhanced crystals. Among these 5 pieces of loot, the gold enhanced crystals are hard currency that maintains value, needless to say. Corpse poison vestments, looks like a mummy bandage, a robe stuck together with some weird and smelly gelatinous substance. The quality is gold, with 10 points of spirit and 8 points of endurance, and an active skill Red Sand Pharaoh's Wrath, which can increase earth magic, skill range coverage by 100%, and power, damage, by 50% after it is activated. It was just cloth armor, so Bai Pu was unlikely to wear it, so he put it in the storage space to collect dust for the time being. Withered Jewel, special item, gem. When inlaid into the slot of the equipment, it will produce an additional bonus effect. The wearer of the equipment will gain 40 points of magic penetration. Bai Pu thought of his own dark gold equipment, Crown of Domination, which had 3 slots and needed to be inlaid with 3 gems. Although the professional effect of this, Wither Jewel, was not quite right, it was always an alternative option, and it also gave Bai Pu the confidence to make the Crown of Domination in the advanced spirit world. Mummy Bandage, B-level silver item. It takes 10 seconds to use. After use, it heals all non-limb mutilation injuries and restores 5,000 health points. It disappears after use. This bandage looks dirty and smells hard to describe, but it is powerful. If it weren't for the restriction of taking 10 seconds to use, it would almost be equivalent to the awakened person's second life. The above 4 pieces of trophies have their own characteristics. For Bai Pu, the benefits are greater than killing the Red Emperor. The richness of the advanced spirit world makes Bai Pu very happy. It seems that not staying in the intermediate spirit world and advancing to the advanced spirit world early will be more conducive to growth. But the trophy that Bai Pu values most is still the skill book. Magic Sand, secret skill. You can consume earth magic power to condense magic sand. The magic sand is controlled by your mind and only consumes a small amount of magic power. When you use magic sand as a medium to cast earth magic, the consumed magic power is reduced to 50% of the normal value, but the power will not be reduced. Preconditions for cultivation, advanced sand secret, or master any earth secret. Bai Pu can cultivate this secret skill book. Its cultivation prerequisite is advanced sand secret, But those who have not comprehended the sand secret can ignore the prerequisite of the sand secret and practice it forcibly as long as they have an earth mastery level secret. The secret of collapsing mountains belongs to the category of earth-related secrets. Chapter 491, Steel Heart is just a small problem. When Bai Pu and others set foot on the magic teleportation array to return, Daizong did not return to the academy, but left. The reason given to the Aborigines was that the protection mission had been completed and they would travel around the continent next. He told Bai Pu the truth. My main mission has been completed, and the remaining stay time is not much. It is difficult to trigger the next stage of the main story in the academy. I plan to stay in the Chisha tribe and see if there are any side missions here. At Daizong's level of strength, the help of the high-level spiritual world to his growth is already very small. Only those top Aborigines, even those who are beyond the norm and usually only exist in the background board, can give him guidance and progress. Maybe Dean Bosch is one of them. This time, Daizong also brushed some reputation by completing the mission and improved some of Dean Bosch's favorability. Daizong plans to stay in the Chisha tribe. Obviously, he has taken a fancy to the will of the demon god Sarigar, and maybe he can give him some guidance. The moral bottom line of awakened people is generally more flexible. For example, Daizong, although he is a teacher of Gurjetsun Academy, he will not refuse to join the camp of Sarigar, provided that there are benefits. To put it another way, this place may become an important battlefield in the world of Damo, Battle Academy. The Red Sand Camp, let's call it that for the time being, has emerged, and it is bound to expand. There will definitely be conflicts with other forces in the Eastern Desert and even the small countries and city-states around the desert. According to the nature of the will of the spirit world, the Red Sand Camp will definitely encounter tough guys as it expands, such as a man who falls from the sky in the surrounding city-states and leads everyone to resist. The man who falls from the sky must be inclined by the power of the world beacon, and he is almost the protagonist of the plane. Even if there is no man who falls from the sky, it is possible that the top masters of the two major campuses of Lorich and Gurjetsun will be alarmed. After all, the Twin Star continent is the most prosperous and peaceful continent among the three continents, which is inseparable from the presence of the two major campuses. This shows from the side that the temperaments of the top masters of the two academies are inclined to order and peace, and are naturally in opposition to the Red Sand Camp. Bai Pu said goodbye to Daizong and immediately stepped into the teleportation light gate. In a basement in Gurjetsun City. Elder B. Fen, the plan to snipe Steel Heart this time has failed. Daizong has taken action. Xianlang and Zilao stood respectfully with their hands down in front of an awakened person hidden in the shadows. A slightly hoarse voice sounded, "It's okay. If Steel Heart had stayed in the intermediate spirit world, the Alliance would have no good way to deal with him. But this time, the conscription order of the spirit world will force him to enter the advanced spirit world. It is God's will to destroy him. It is very simple to kill him, just a small matter." Xianlang's lips moved, and finally gritted his teeth and said, "Steel Heart seems to have made a breakthrough. An awakener who has just reached level 6, even if there is a breakthrough, it can't turn the world upside down." The hoarse voice said indifferently, "Steel Heart is just a small problem. The Alliance's plan in the fighting demon world is the top priority, and we can't be distracted." Zilao was startled and responded loudly. "You and Xianlang were too arrogant this time, and you actually assassinated Steel Heart in front of important natives. The Alliance spent so much effort to help you arrange a position in Gurjetsun Academy. Is this how you treat it?" Zilao apologized with a bitter face. "Humph, remember your apology first. I only look at the results. Do you still have the ability to bring people into the academy?" the hoarse voice asked. "It's definitely impossible to get in from the normal route. However, I have carefully studied the distribution of the centuries in the academy, and I also know the weaknesses of the magic circle of the warning. It will be no problem to sneak in with a few people. Well, this plan is of great significance. As long as it succeeds, it will be a small matter for you to lose your position as the deputy director of Gurjetsun Academy. But if you fail, you will be punished for both crimes." Finally back. Bai Pu, Tom and Asana walked out of the teleportation array and came to the familiar Gurjetsun City. Looking at the architectural style of the Eastern Plains, which is very different from the desert area, and the lush woodlands in the hills in the distance, Tom and Asana both felt as if they were in another world. Bai Pu felt okay. As an awakened person, his horizons are naturally much broader than those of the natives. The three returned to the academy and went to the academic affairs office to submit their tasks. This time, I didn't see Principal Bosch. It is said that he was out for something. Fortunately, the rewards for the bounty missions in the academy were approved by the academic affairs office and notified to the general affairs office for distribution, so the school could operate normally even when the principal was not there. After checking the lost scepter, the academic affairs office issued a certificate. The three of them took the certificate and ran to the general affairs office to collect the reward. Mr. Aflee, the first deputy director of the general affairs office, readily approved the reward for the three to enter the demon god's underground palace, and asked them to rest and enter the underground palace tomorrow. Tom and Asana reported the process of the trip, especially focusing on the backstabbing of Simley, the deputy director of the general affairs office. Aflee took it very seriously. His authority was fully sufficient to handle such traitor incidents. Because the director of the General Affairs Office was a well-known strong man on the continent, the title Sword St. Joe Finley, who liked to travel around the continent, the position of director was more like an honorary position, and the actual affairs of the General Affairs Office were all handled by Aflee, the first deputy director. The matter was of great importance, and Alfred could not listen to one side of the story. He sent a letter to the Political and Educational Department to temporarily freeze all the powers of Deputy Director Simley, and then the Political and Educational Department sent a team of capable people to investigate the matter thoroughly. Bai Pu returned to his student dormitory. This dormitory was temporarily allocated to the head of the first grade, Class 4, that is, Tom's single room. Bai Pu, a transfer student, had no vacant dormitory. After consulting Tom, the General Affairs Office arranged Bai Pu here. Tom was naturally very happy. This kid had a strong mentality, admired the strong and genius, but was quite contemptuous of the weak. In his eyes, Bai Pu met the standards of a strong person 100%. Bai Pu had been studying in the secret collection hall for a few days, and now he finally had time to rest in the dormitory. During the rest time, Bai Pu asked Tom. That was the question about the seeds of magic power. He now had two items that could be used as seeds of magic power. One was the sandstorm core dropped by the sandstorm mage, and the other was the earth dragon ball obtained in the Brahma town. The origin and rarity of the earth dragon ball far surpassed the sandstorm core, which is beyond doubt. However, the earth dragon ball is only of earth attribute, while the sandstorm core has a balance of earth and wind attributes. Should we use the earth dragon ball as the magic seed, or the sandstorm core as the magic seed? Chapter 492, Magical Power Center. Dio, you have never practiced elemental magic, so you need to understand one thing. Tom said seriously, each elemental magician can refine multiple seeds of magic power into the spiritual seed to form a common magic power center. But these seeds of magic power should be as balanced as possible, and there should be no rarity crushing, otherwise the magic power will easily go out of control. The consequences of magic power going out of control are very serious. Once the magic power goes out of control, the minimum is paralysis and bedridden for several months before slowly recovering. In extreme cases, it is also possible to explode and die. This is the common sense of magic that Bai Pu learned from the secret collection hall. Tom continued, the elemental attribute of the magic power seed determines the attribute type you specialize in. For example, I used the magic core of the wind-attributed magical beast blue sky elephant bird, and finally refined the wind-attributed magic power seed. The elemental attribute I specialize in is wind. I can also cast magic of the other three attributes of the elemental system, but no matter the casting speed or power, it is not as good as the wind attribute. Then can you continue to practice magic power seeds of other attributes? Bai Pu asked. Yes, but I have to reach the level of a senior magician first, and prepare an elemental magic core of the same level as the blue sky elephant bird magic core. Tom said, the super magician of the elemental system is also called a controller, who can control all four elements of magic. Bai Pu nodded, in other words, I have chosen the earth dragon ball now, which specializes in earth magic. But can I still practice other elemental attributes in the future? That's true, but the magic core of the earth dragon ball's level is too rare. You may not be able to find a second magic core of the same level, even if you search for 10 years. Tom sighed and said, if you want to be a magician specializing in the earth element, you can use the earth dragon ball, and your starting point is higher than that of ordinary magicians. But you also have the wind secret, so you can be a magician specializing in both wind and earth. You might as well consider using the sandstorm core. Anyway, your Dao Qi foundation is so strong, and practicing magic is only for assistance. Your main means of fighting against the enemy still depends on Dao Qi. Bai Pu understood what Tom meant. Can the seed of magic be upgraded in the future? Bai Pu asked. Of course. Tom understood Bai Pu's idea. In the future, if you find other top-level magic cores that can rival the Earth Dragon Ball, you can replace and upgrade it. And by then, your magic power will have a foundation, so it will be easier to upgrade. Well then, I'll use the Sandstorm Core first. Wind magic is very useful for improving Bai Pu's combat power. Especially since Bai Pu's agility is not his specialty, he often can't keep up with powerful opponents who are not afraid of the Blood River territory slowing down. If he has a wind specialty, he can quickly bless himself with acceleration skills such as wind breath, and it will not be difficult to deal with awakened people like Xian Lang, who are good at both strength and agility. The Sandstorm Core itself is already a high-level magic core, and its grade is definitely not low, but it can't be compared with a top-level magic core like the Earth Dragon Ball. As for the Earth Dragon Ball, Bai Pu also plans to keep it well. Find other top-level elemental magic cores in the future, and then upgrade his magic seeds. Bai Pu has an ambition, which is to collect the top-level magic cores of the 4 elements of earth, water, fire and wind, and refine them into magic seeds. With 4 elemental specializations, one might be able to be promoted to an elemental super magician, the controller. Needless to say, one must at least become a sword saint and reach the top level in both magic and martial arts, so that one can walk sideways in the high-level spiritual world. That night, Tom fell asleep early. This desert trip made him physically and mentally exhausted and he needed to rest. Bai Pu followed the guidance of the magic book in the secret collection hall and began to try to cultivate the seeds of magic. The core of the sandstorm was in Bai Pu's palm, gray and inconspicuous. However, Bai Pu's spiritual perception could clearly feel the pure elemental energy contained in it. Such pure and powerful elemental energy was running in an orderly manner in a small core. Each magic core is a small world. Although the magic core is small, it contains all the magic elements that make it up. It is the source of the huge magic power in every magician. When an apprentice magician absorbs a magic core, he must pay special attention to the synchronization of the properties of his own magic circuit and the magic core. Most apprentice magicians have completed this task well, but there are also a few careless rookies who did not choose a magic core with the right properties for their own magic circuit, which resulted in the destruction of the magic core and the collapse of their own magic circuit. They had to lie in bed for 3 weeks. Don't ask me why I know the consequences. Bai Pu recalled a book on magic theory in his mind, written by the great magician Weinstein. The so-called attribute synchronization means that when a magician has an earth attribute magic circuit in his body, he can only choose an earth magic core as the core of his magic circuit. However, Bai Pu's sandstorm core is dual system, so he doesn't have to worry so much. He gathered his consciousness into his body, looked inward to check his magic circuit, activated the earth magic circuit first, and then put the sandstorm core on his forehead. The magic power circulated in circles. Each time it circulated, it was released from the must-pass place at the center of the eyebrows, drilled into the sandstorm core, and then continued to run along the magic circuit. If there were other people present, they would have seen a strange sight. The solid sandstorm core was actually embedded in Bai Pu's eyebrows inch by inch, and Bai Pu's skin at the center of the eyebrows was not damaged at all. In the end, the sandstorm core merged into Bai Pu's eyebrows, leaving only wisps of sand and dust, which flew away with the wind. That was the external material structure of the magic core, which had turned into wind and sand and dissipated. The root power inside the magic core had already existed in the form of energy body in Bai Pu's spiritual sea. This was the seed of magic power. The spiritual sea that stored the seed of magic power was called the magic center, which was equivalent to the magic engine of a magician and also a warehouse for storing magic power. At the same time, Bai Pu activated the magic circuit of the wind system. The spiritual sea at the center of the eyebrows was the must-pass place for all magic circuits of elemental magicians, providing possibilities for magicians who specialize in 4 systems. If there is no such public station as the magic center, magicians can only practice single-type spells. Magic itself has no attribute. When magic runs along the earth circuit, it is released as earth magic. When magic runs along the wind circuit, it is released as wind magic. Under the control of Bai Pu's mental power, strands of magic flow into the center, quickly filing the spiritual C. You have successfully obtained a temporary secondary occupation, elemental magician through independent practice, current magician level, level 6. Total magic power, 900/900. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493, The Relief of the Demon God's Underground Palace. Temporary secondary occupation. Bai Pu was a little surprised and checked, what is the difference between a temporary secondary occupation and a normal secondary occupation? The will of the spirit world prompted, under normal circumstances, awakened people cannot obtain a second combat occupation through self-study in the spirit world. The fighting demon world is a world that allows the dual cultivation of magic and martial arts. Awakened people with strong intuition can obtain a second combat occupation through self-study during the professional plane trial. When you leave the fighting demon world, your second occupation, elemental magician, will be frozen and cannot be used. Bai Pu narrowed his eyes and thought, then checked again, what if I combine the elemental magician occupation with the Daoki warrior occupation and cultivate the magic Daoki? The will of the spirit world seemed to be down for a second, and then a prompt came, if the awakened person only has one combat occupation, it is within the reasonable range of the spirit world convention. The spirit world convention. Bai Pu silently memorized this new term in his heart, and then lay on the bed. It seems that if I want to practice both magic and martial arts, I must create an advanced magic fighting spirit training method like the native Amaral. My accumulation is far from enough. I just hope that the Demon God Underground Palace will not let me down. The next morning, the Demon God Underground Palace. Bai Pu, Tom and Asana came all the way to the foot of the God of War Peak, and walked along a narrow corridor that meandered downward like a snake, all the way to the gate of the Demon God Underground Palace. They were led by Miss Munice, a senior student of the second term of the God of War Peak. Munice had a high degree of favorability towards Bai Pu, probably because she was optimistic about Bai Pu, and Bai Pu really brought honor to the academy. Along the way, she also took the initiative to introduce him. The Demon God Underground Palace, according to legend, was created during the ancient war between gods and demons by the god of literature and art, Kalion, who watched the earth-shaking battles between the gods and left a record of it in the form of text, murals and carvings. After thousands of years, the original text and murals have become blurred, and only a dozen reliefs remain. However, when you look at the reliefs, you will get some insights. Bai Pu followed Munice into the palace. The Demon God Underground Palace is not a man-made palace, but a naturally formed underground cave, but the cave is particularly wide, just like a real conference hall. It can accommodate 1,000 or 2,000 people for a conference without feeling crowded. There are jagged stalagmites on the ground, and stalactites hang down from the dome. More than a dozen naturally formed stone pillars support this huge underground palace. When Bai Pu entered the underground palace, he saw a relief at first sight. A majestic dragon with 4 big horns and 4 wings looked down at the city below. The earth cracked open, the city turned into meteorites, and the terrible gravity bound a one-horned phoenix and buried it in the abyss. This is the relief of the prismatic Holy Dragon King Aurelian defeating the Dark Lord Saragar. The ancient ruins of Nacidus that you went to are said to be the site of this great battle. Munice said. Tom sighed, it's really an unforgettable journey. If it weren't for Dio, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to come back. Dio, isn't that right? Tom turned his head to look at Bai Pu, but was surprised to find that Bai Pu didn't respond, but stared at the relief. He has been immersed in it. Munice's eyes burst into a strange light. He can immerse himself in it at first sight. What a terrible understanding. This is the first time I have seen such an outrageous one. Munice didn't know that Bai Pu's own understanding was very high, and he also had the bonus of learning ability when entering the professional plane, and Bai Pu also gave him a cruel admonition of the Holy Thorn, imitation, in the spiritual world. That's why he was immersed in it so quickly. When Bai Pu first saw the relief, he saw the majestic demeanor of the Holy Dragon King and the monstrous demonic might of the Purple Flame Phoenix, and naturally felt the spiritual imprint contained in the relief. The relief seemed to expand infinitely, transforming from a flat plane into a three-dimensional world, enveloping Bai Pu's mind. Bai Pu's consciousness seemed to have come to the ancient battlefield of gods and demons thousands of years ago. He saw with his own eyes the big rift caused by the super earthquake, the eruption of underground fire, and the prosperous city flying into the sky. The prismatic holy dragon King Aurelian ejected a glittering golden sphere, which was the Earth Dragon Ball. Using the Earth Dragon Ball as a medium, Aurelian cast a large-scale supergravity magic. A great collapse occurred, and the Earth was like a piece of rag, suddenly grasped by a powerful big hand, and the mountains, rivers, and forests all gathered to the same center point. Even the sky was like a painting, being grabbed by a powerful hand. The endless airflow was compressed, and even the high clouds were sucked into a narrow funnel shape at the bottom. The demon god Surrger was also resisting, and the black and red magic fire continued to gush out, flying towards Aurelian like raindrops. Every ball of magic fire touched the rocks, crushed the rivers, and carbonized the forests. However, when Aurelian used the supergravity magic, the outcome of this battle was already determined. This supergravity magic is an attack and defense skill. Surrger's magic fire was just spewed out for a distance and was sucked back by gravity, surrounding Surrger to form a black and red burning mist. Even solid rocks could not seal Surrger's true red flames, and were burned through by him continuously. In desperation, Aurelian could only ruthlessly give up the Earth Dragon Ball, maintain the Brahma town, suppress Surrger's true red power, and finally successfully seal Surrger. Aurelian left a few steel giants to guard the Earth Dragon Ball in the seal, and then drifted away, leaving behind only the devastated battlefield. Bai Pu woke up from his experience. He was a little excited. In his mind, several new ideas about the unresolved magic fighting spirit cultivation method were born. For example, the nature of magic power and fighting spirit, the essence of energy, the perfection of the field. Bai Pu simply sat down, closed his eyes and began to think. During this period, Bai Pu in the spiritual world, the health points lost by the cruel admonition were also constantly recovering. After thinking for 3 hours, Bai Pu finally got up. I see. After understanding the nature of magic power and fighting spirit, it is not difficult to combine them and comprehend magic fighting spirit. Now I can integrate earth magic power and wind magic power into the fighting spirit cultivation method, and create a brand new magic fighting spirit cultivation method. However, there is no need to rush for the time being. There are still many reliefs of gods and demons. It is better to read them slowly and gradually improve my magic fighting spirit cultivation method. Bai Pu followed the method of reading the first relief. He first used cruel admonition to improve his comprehension, watched the reliefs of gods and demons fighting, and after gaining inspiration, he closed his eyes to think about and perfect his magic fighting spirit cultivation method. Chapter 494 Demonic Fighting Key, Sand Waterfall. Demon God Underground Palace. The relief of the war between gods and demons is not only the war between the Dragon Kingdom and the underworld. There is also the burning war of the elemental worlds, the abyss war between angels and demons. Bai Pu also directly understood the secrets of the war between gods and demons. He was able to verify the seemingly true historical records in the secret collection hall within a limited scope. At the beginning of the war between gods and demons, it was a proxy war, and later it was a powerful demigod that fought one after another, including the Knights of Hades, the Death Warriors, the dragons and dragon descendants, the elemental lords. At the most tragic moment of the war, the real gods ended. 8 of the 12 demons of the underworld appeared one after another, and 3 of the 4 holy dragon kings of the Dragon Kingdom also appeared. The powerful divine power permanently changed the landform, causing great destruction, and the second era came to an end. Fortunately, the 12 demons and the holy dragon kings are all at the follower god level, and the intensity of the war is limited to this. Hades, Dragon God and other main god level bosses did not take action, otherwise it would be hard to say whether there are still 3 continents in the world of fighting demons. Bai Pu also drew enough inspiration from the reliefs. He sat cross-legged in front of the first relief of the Battle of Red Sand and entered into meditation. Ideas collided in his mind, and the pages of the Tao Key cultivation books were flipping like invisible hands. One by one, the cultivation texts were picked up by the invisible hands, gathered, blended, and melted into one. My self-created advanced fighting spirit cultivation method has been completed. This fighting spirit cultivation method combines the essence of many A-level fighting spirit cultivation methods such as whale swallowing fighting spirit, blood sea fighting shark fighting spirit, etc. After cultivation, the fighting spirit is like a blood sea, And the power is like a giant whale. It can be called the Blood Sea Long Whale Fighting Spirit Cultivation Method. Through the inspiration given by the relief of the battle between gods and demons, I realized the essence of magic power and fighting spirit. They are just different forms of energy. I integrated the earth and wind magic power into the Blood Sea Long Whale Fighting Spirit Cultivation Method, taking the thickness of the earth and the changes of the wind, and finally formed my own magic fighting spirit cultivation method. In Bai Pu's mind, the countless fighting spirit cultivation methods that he had memorized disappeared, leaving only one fighting spirit cultivation method, Sand Waterfall Fighting Spirit. The ancient and simple book of advanced guidance was flipping, and the will of the spirit world sent a message. You created your own magic fighting spirit cultivation method, Sand Waterfall Fighting Spirit. The evaluation of the magic fighting spirit cultivation method, Sand Waterfall is? Level 7. This method is 100% compatible with you. If you switch to Sandfall, your basic priority will increase by 1.26. You will be more likely to comprehend the mysteries of the earth and wind systems. Since you are the creator of this practice, you are considered to have learned this key practice. Do you want to use the inspiration ball and switch directly? If you do so, you will be promoted to level 7 directly. Sandfall Dao was created by Bai Pu himself. He does not need the inspiration ball to practice it on his own. However, using the inspiration ball can save Bai Pu a lot of time to switch to it, allowing all of Bai Pu's Blood River Dao Qi to quickly transform into advanced Sandfall Dao Qi, and his strength will increase rapidly. Bai Pu chose to use it. The inspiration ball is unique to the professional plane. After leaving the professional plane, it will automatically disappear. Now that the inspiration ball has been used up, Bai Pu does not need to stay dormant to practice after returning to reality, and can directly achieve the perfect practice state of Sandfall Dao Qi. As soon as Bai Pu had a thought, the ball of inspiration suddenly shone brightly, and the complex symbols flowing in it flew out and were imprinted in the scroll of the Sand Waterfall Dao Qi cultivation method. The Blood River Dao Qi in Bai Pu's body accelerated and rushed, following the unique operation route of the newly generated Sand Waterfall Dao Qi, flowing over and over again. Every time it flows, the Blood River Dao Qi is transformed into more pure and condensed Sand Waterfall Dao Qi. I see. No wonder my basic priority can be increased by 1 level, because my professional energy is much purer. Now it is comparable to the energy purity of the Lord level, and the priority is automatically aligned with the Lord. Except that the growth attributes and combat skills are slightly inferior to the Lord, Bai Pu is no different from the Lord now. Bai Pu also understood why the templates of the natives of the advanced spirit world all rose, because they practiced the advanced method and the purity of their professional energy increased. In the army of the advanced spirit world, an ordinary soldier is an elite template, the team leader is an enhanced elite, the middle-level officer is a warrior template, and the generals almost start as enhanced warriors. Compared with the intermediate and low-level spirit worlds, they have generally risen to a higher level. Of course, the strength of the awakened has also generally improved, because the awakened who can pass the test of the professional plane can at least get a priority +1 increase, except for heroes and enhanced heroes. And those awakened with weak potential cannot pass the test of the professional plane at all. Fighting Demon, Battle Academy World, as a plane with a strength of 5.2, is also quite difficult compared to all high-level spirit worlds. The matching of the will of the spirit world will arrange awakened people with outstanding potential to be tested in professional planes with higher difficulty, depending on the upper limit of the awakened. Bai Pu can match a professional plane with a difficulty of 5.2, which must be related to the fact that he is an enhanced hero. For general hero professions, the difficulty of matching professional planes is between 4 and 5. If the heroes from the college competition, such as Longsheng and Tige, were put into the demon fighting world for trials, they probably wouldn't even get a cultivation method with an A-level rating or above. They could only learn a B-level cultivation method as a second choice. It would be a blessing to keep the template of the hero profession, and they didn't dare to hope to go further. Bai Pu's transformation was completed, and he slowly opened his eyes. A series of prompt messages flashed by. Congratulations to the awakened Steel Heart for completing the test of the professional plane. You are directly promoted to level 7. Advanced Demon Dao Qi Cultivation Method. Sand Waterfall Dao Qi strengthens your physique and spirit. Your basic strength +5, basic agility +5, basic endurance +5, basic spirit +15. Since the Sand Waterfall Dao Key cultivation method takes into account the tempering of mental power, every time you level up, your basic spirit is increased by an additional +2. Your professional skill, Blood River Territory evolves into new professional skill, Sand Waterfall Domain. You have acquired the skill, Introduction to Earth Magic, 1%. You can learn low-level Earth Magic on your own. You have acquired the skill, Introduction to Wind Magic, 1%. You can learn low-level Wind Magic on your own. Hint 1. Introduction to Earth Magic and Introduction to Wind Magic provides you with the prerequisites for learning Earth and Wind Magic. The two magics you learned on your own cannot increase the skill level. The range and strength of the skills are affected by your magic power. Hint 2. When your magic learning progress reaches 100%, you can upgrade Introduction to Earth Magic to Advanced Earth Magic, and then learn Intermediate Earth Magic. The same applies to Introduction to Wind Magic. Bai Pu took a glance and found that the Demon God Underground Palace was empty at this time. Tom and others should have finished their comprehension and returned early. Get used to the new power. Go to the Secret Collection Hall and read some books in the remaining time. Take this opportunity to learn some low-level magic to assist in combat. Bai Pu was not tired at all at this time. Instead, he was extremely excited and energetic. He wanted to find someone to fight. Chapter 495 Orcs Never Lie. Gajetsun Academy, Secret Collection Hall. There are not many magic books collected here. Bai Pu found the book called Basic Magic Introduction and flipped through the pages. There are some shield spells in the Earth Magic, but Bai Pu is not very interested. There is an intermediate Earth Magic Quicksand, which was used by the Sandstorm Mage in the past. It is very useful to slow down the enemy. But this is an intermediate magic, and Bai Pu is not yet able to learn it. Moreover, the Quicksand of the Sandstorm Mage is so strong, it must be related to the opponent's magic strength and ultimate bonus. Bai Pu just wrote down the practice method of Quicksand, then turned it over and found the spell of low-level wind magic. Gentle Wind Guardian, a very basic wind spell, can provide a small amount of shield and increase movement speed. This magic is supposed to be quite comprehensive, but unfortunately as a low-level spell, it has a lot of limitations. Once attacked, the movement speed bonus provided by Gentle Wind Guardian will be invalid. To increase the speed in battle, you need to practice the intermediate wind magic, Breath of Wind, which can increase the movement speed by at least 20 points. This refers to the speed bonus of the magic base. The higher the magic cultivation of the caster, the higher the movement speed bonus points. For example, the Breath of Wind cast by Tom can increase the movement speed by 30 to 40 points. This is already quite effective in the battle of high-level spiritual masters, and Tom is just an almost high-level elemental magician. Bai Pu checked and found that his skill, Introduction to Wind Magic, is considered to be the level of a low-level wind magician. After the progress bar is full of 100%, the next step is Advanced Wind Magic, which corresponds to an intermediate wind magician, and can cast the magic Breath of Wind. Bai Pu flipped through the low-level magic and did find a lot of auxiliary spells, but because the level was too low, for Bai Pu, who is already a high-level awakener at this time, the combat bonus was not obvious. However, Bai Pu still chose the two low-level magics, Gentle Wind Guardian, and Mud Spell. The reason is simple, just to accumulate progress and increase proficiency. This is the most helpful low-level magic that Bai Pu has selected from a large number of magic. Bai Pu now has 3 attributes, and the newly acquired spiritual attribute has also given him a passive skill. Magic Chanting Bytes Omitted, reduce the syllables required to chant magic and shorten the casting time. Professional passive skills follow the level. At present, the level of Magic Chanting Bytes Omitted is as high as level 7. For low-level magic, it is simply a dimensionality reduction attack. Bai Pu only needs a simple bytes and cooperate with the operation of magic power to cast low-level magic. Of course, to achieve this step, you need to be very familiar with this spell itself, to the point of being familiar with it, which requires a lot of practice. Fortunately, Bai Pu is not picky about the venue. He has genetic mental imagery and can practice magic chanting in the mental imagery space. At night, the guard on duty in the secret collection hall was rubbing his eyes and yawning when a hand suddenly stretched out from the shadow behind him. The shadow spread, and the guard was swallowed up by the shadow without even a groan. A few seconds later, the guard reappeared, but his body became stiffer and his eyes were a little dull. The shadow did the same thing and soon eliminated all the guards near the secret hall. Soon the shadow dissipated, and a group of people appeared. Zilao was pale and panting, saying, "It's no good. I have been maintaining the Phantom Realm to cover up the images and sounds of the battle. The consumption is too great. I understand. Leave the rest to us." Next to Zilao, there stood several humanoid creatures with dark red skin, green faces and fangs. They wore simple animal skins that only covered the important parts of their bodies. The weapons they used were mostly made of bone and stone, which looked primitive and wild. This was a group of orcs. The orc who was speaking licked his lips and said, "Open the door. Empty this secret hall and take back all the fighting spirit cultivation methods here. Glory belongs to the great Rohan tribe." Zilao immediately took out a black lock-picking tool and started working. Xianling on the side reminded him, "Zavala, don't forget what you agreed to do. Don't worry. This batch of fighting spirit cultivation methods can greatly enhance the strength of the Rohan tribe. When the time comes to destroy the human coalition army and establish the Orc Empire, you, the North Wind Adventure Group, will get what you want. Orcs never lie," said the orc leader Zavala. Another orc nearby, looking at the towering Ares Peak in the distance, said enviously, "It is said that the most advanced cultivation methods are all collected in Ares Peak. Although the cultivation methods collected in the secret collection hall are also fine, they are not top-notch. If we can rob Ares Peak, we will make a fortune. Don't dream, the number of top powerhouses in Gajetson Academy is much more than you think." The orc leader Zavala said coldly, "This time the North Wind Adventure Group and our Rohan tribe have joined forces to lure out the Academy principal of Gajetson, and they have to steal the collection secretly, because once the talented students who are studying in Ares Peak are alarmed, if they rush over, we will not be their opponents at all." After a pause, Zavala said, "Simile, how many of the top powerhouses of the Academy headquarters are still left in the Academy?" "The top powerhouses of the student headquarters are all genuine directors of a certain department of the headquarters. However, these powerhouses like to travel around the continent, and the affairs are handed over to the deputy directors and deputy directors. They usually don't stay in the school." Zilao said, "The top masters in the Academy now, apart from the Academy principal Bosch who was led away, there is also the director of the night department, Dana Sitabe, but she is being entangled by the main force of our North Wind Adventure Group. Bloodplum Knight Dana Sitabe." The orc leader Zavala was a little afraid. That's not a character that can be easily messed with. "Don't worry, our North Wind Adventure Group's leader, Lord Northwind, will lead the team personally and guarantee that the other party will not interfere with us. Maybe Lord Northwind can even get rid of Dana Sitabe," Zilao said confidently. The group whispered to each other while trying to open the door of the secret hall. Although the door lock of the secret hall was very strong, Zilao and his group came prepared. It didn't take much time for them to easily open the door of the secret hall and file in. "Hurry up and move as much as you can." The orcs took out large and small bags, and their eyes shone with the golden light. Gajetson Academy is a holy place for warriors. The fighting key cultivation methods collected in the secret collection hall are not ordinary ones. They are basically fine products, or at least distinctive and unique fighting key cultivation methods. Any fighting key cultivation method that spreads to the outside world can be passed down as a family heirloom by an upper middle class aristocratic family. Chapter 496. He is just a student. The orcs each carried a large animal skin bag and rushed to the rows of bookshelves. No matter what the book was, they stuffed it all into the animal skin bag. This is the classics collected by the warrior Holy Land, Gajetson Academy. For the remote and backward orc tribe, grabbing more books is a profit. Stop. Suddenly, a loud shout came. A dark yellow sword energy shot out from the void. The orc who rushed to the front was directly cut in half by this dark yellow sword energy, and the animal skin bag in his hand fell helplessly. The gushing blood splashed the classics that poured out of the animal skin bag with a little scarlet. The dark yellow sword energy continued to slash at the orcs behind. Not good. The orc leader Zavala roared, and the hard hair on his head like a porcupine stood up, and his muscles instantly swelled with blood, and his whole body turned red. He swung a bone hammer and smashed the dark yellow sword energy. Crack! With a loud bang, the dark yellow sword energy shattered. And the bone hammer was also shaved off countless bone fragments, and the surface became bumpy. Zavala stepped back 2 steps and said in surprise, "There is another master, who is it?" Bai Pu walked slowly between the bookshelves. The Dao Ki slash just now was not a skill, but Bai Pu's medium and long-range general attack. After practicing the advanced Dao Ki method, Bai Pu's sand waterfall Dao Ki became more pure and condensed. Not only can it be attached to the weapon and extended, but it can also split the air to create Dao Ki waves, causing medium and long-range damage. The power is equivalent to Bai Pu's ordinary attack, but the consumption of Dao Ki is higher, so it can only be used as a backup. In conventional battles, close combat is more cost-effective. Is it you? Xianlang and Zilao shouted at the same time. They naturally recognized Bai Pu. Who is this person? Is he the director of a department? Having just received a Dao Ki slash from Bai Pu, Zavala felt that Bai Pu was very difficult and asked in a low voice. Neither, he is just a student. Zilao replied quickly. The North Wind team has promised that no director-level strongman will interfere with their book theft. This is related to the mutual trust between the North Wind team and the orcs. As different races, it is not easy to gain the trust of this group of orcs. This is just a student. Zavala looked doubtful. Is he a student from the first 3 periods of Ares Peak? While speaking, Zavala also showed a bone hammer in his hand to the 2 people in the west building. There was a clear scratch on it, and there were fine cracks and depressions around it, as if it had been hit by strong gravel. He is just a freshman. His strength is pretty good. Xianlang had fought with Bai Pu before, and until Bai Pu comprehended the mastery level of the mountain collapse secret, he had been suppressing Bai Pu and had a certain psychological advantage. Although Bai Pu's secret broke through again, he had a plan and taught Xianlang a lesson, but Xianlang also had a trick that he had not used, but he thought he was careless. Now that his side has more people and more power, Xianlang is not at all weak, and directly launched a military suppression. A blue light flashed, and Bai Pu felt an obscure disturbance in the space around him. Tianlang used the rank of Black Iron Major to suppress your rank. Your rank is Lieutenant, suppression is effective. For 600 seconds, you cannot use any props or skills related to spiritual teleportation. Leave this person to us, you continue to move the books. Tianlang smiled evilly and said to Xilu, you should be able to use the Phantom Realm for a while, right? There is nothing to worry about now, come with me and get rid of this kid here. Xilu nodded, and a faint light flashed on his body. His originally depressed aura was boosted, and his fighting spirit energy became abundant again. It was obvious that he had used the honor energy potion. The Phantom Realm unfolded, and Bai Pu was pulled into it. There was a gray shadow all around him, and nothing could be seen clearly. Gongsun, you are too arrogant. You didn't run away after discovering us. Now, you have no chance to escape. Xianlang's voice came vaguely, as if it came from all directions, making it difficult to judge his position. Bai Pu shook his head slightly and closed his eyes. He raised the chainsaw sword and slashed it with ease. There was a loud bang and screams. The head of an orc soared into the sky, and the headless body fell down powerlessly. At the same time, Bai Pu's chainsaw sword-seeking wind special effect was activated, following the trajectory of the wind, and slashed back. There was another scream, and another orc was cut open from bottom to top, and his internal organs and blood flowed all over the ground. Zavala's voice sounded in the Phantom Realm, somewhat exasperated. Didn't you say that this man should be left to you to deal with? How could my people be killed by him when they went to move the books? Simile, does your Phantom Realm work? This guy must have used the vibration induction brought by the mastery level earth-related secrets to determine your position. Xianlang's voice sounded with a sound of violent vibrations and the collapse of bookshelves, destroy the battlefield, create noise, and confuse his perception of vibrations. Bai Pu still closed his eyes, and in the irregular vibrations on the ground, he raised his sword and killed another person. At the same time, Bai Pu grabbed a handful of wind in the air and made a light sniffing motion. Then he turned around and slashed with a sword. Ling. With a loud bang, Xianlang's figure emerged, with a look of astonishment on his face. The long knife in his hand collided with Bai Pu's chainsaw sword. You can really see through the Phantom Realm. Damn it, how did you do it? Xianlang felt that it was too exaggerated, even he himself could not see through the Phantom Realm. Bai Pu had a blank expression on his face, and held up the broadside of his greatsword to block the bone hammer that flew diagonally. Seeing that the situation was not good, the orc leader Zavala came to help without having time to move the book. In fact, it was the breath of the wind that told Bai Pu where the enemy's breath was strong. Bai Pu relied on the characteristics of the collapse of the mountain secret to break through the front and destroy the heart, regardless of anything, and only chopped at the place where the enemy's breath was strong. It didn't matter if he couldn't hit the vital points such as the neck and heart. Even if he chopped on the opponent's bone armor, the collapse of the mountain secret could shatter the armor of the corresponding part and then cause damage. Bai Pu didn't answer, and Xianling didn't expect to ask for an answer. He said unhappily, "Xilu, come out. Your phantom realm is restrained, quickly withdraw it, and come together to besiege this kid." The phantom realm dissipated, and Xilu leaned over with a dagger in his hand. The three masters Zavala, Xianling and Zilao immediately formed a scene of besieging Bai Pu together. There were also some orcs whose companions had died around them, watching covetously. These orcs were not even in a hurry to move the books, they wanted to kill Bai Pu first. Chapter 497, Practicing both magic and martial arts is so unreasonable. After 2 or 3 rounds of confrontation, combined with the combat power value of strong enemy sensing, Bai Pu has sensed the strength level of his opponent. Among them, Zavala is a level 8 enhanced warrior, and the orcs he brought are basically warrior templates. With this power, they actually came to attack the Jetson Academy. Who gave them the courage? However, with the participation of the high-level awakening team, they might have taken advantage of the loophole. What Bai Pu didn't know was that the power combination of a high-level enhanced warrior and a group of high-level warriors, placed in any kingdom except the 2 holy places, is not weak, at least it is a medium-level combat force. And of course, there is also a top lord-level combat force of this Rohan orc tribe, that is, the Rohan chief. But the Rohan chief has a more important task to make trouble in an important treasure land belonging to the Gajetson Academy, which led to the temporary departure of the schoolmaster Bosch. Otherwise, with the schoolmaster Bosch in charge, no matter how many people come, it will be a waste. Moreover, the Rohan orcs are currently only one of the 7 orc tribes, and are far from reaching the level of a kingdom. It is already the limit to send this team to steal books. Bai Pu thought to himself, but his hands did not slow down at all. Sandfall domain, open. Countless sand phantoms formed a sandstorm, which rolled around Bai Pu. Sandfall Dao Qi, as a magic Dao Qi cultivation method that Bai Pu comprehended on his own, of course has its own highly compatible skill, namely Sandfall domain. In fact, it is equivalent to the evolution of the professional skill Blood River territory. Sandfall domain, use Sandfall magic Dao Qi to create a large-scale sandstorm phantom, causing wind and earth mix attribute damage to all enemies within the affected area, and at the same time transform the damage value into shield durability, covering the user's body surface to form sand armor. Enemies affected by the Sandfall domain will have their vision slightly obscured, their movement speed reduced by 67 points, and they will not be able to use acceleration or sprint skills with a priority of no more than 9 points. Sandfall domain also has the effect of increasing the speed of friendly forces and deformation. After successfully accelerating his transformation with the Orb of Inspiration, Bai Pu was able to control the Sandfall's domain in the shortest possible time. Unlike the Blood River territory, the Sandfall's domain is a real lord-level domain, covering hundreds of meters easily. It will not have a priority disadvantage when confronting the domains of ordinary lords. This is the power of the advanced fighting spirit cultivation method, which makes the professional energy stronger, purer, and more condensed, and naturally affects the range and power increase more powerful. What's going on? The orc leader Zavala was numb. In the Sandfall's domain, even he, an 8th level enhanced warrior, had difficulty walking, not to mention the orcs who were going to steal the book. They couldn't even move their feet and were almost standing there in punishment. In order to prevent Bai Pu from bullying the weak with the big and continuing to kill his own people, Zavala could only rush up and entangle Bai Pu. West building. Domain confrontation. Xianlang said quickly. Zilao's mouth was bitter. My phantom domain is at most a quasi-domain ability. How can it compete with a 9 priority lord level domain? The range alone cannot compare. Shrink it down and only cover the 3 of us. I don't believe that the 3 of us can't take down a steel heart who just successfully changed his job. Xianlang's speed was greatly reduced at this time, and he was not qualified to rush over to fight with Bai Pu. If he fought hard, he would only be taught a lesson by the master-level ultimate secret technique, collapse of mountains. Then I can't participate in the siege. Zilao let out a long breath and opened the phantom domain again. The ink-like phantom collided with a fierce sandstorm. The ink color was diluted a lot, and the speed of the sandstorm's roaring operation was only slowed down a little. What's the situation? I can only restore 17 points of movement speed. Xianlang was a little dumbfounded. Not only that, under the fierce impact of the phantom of sand and gravel, the ink color faded, and Bai Pu could vaguely see the positions of Yanlang, Xilu and Zavala. It was no longer like the last time in the red sand ruins, where he could not even see a ghost. Although even if he could not see, Bai Pu could use the vibration of the earth after reaching the mastery level of the secret of collapsing mountains to judge the enemy's position. He could also rely on the breath transmitted by the wind to smell the enemy's position. But it was not as clear as seeing it with his own eyes. Bai Pu's confidence increased greatly, and he smiled. Tianlang, the last one who used military rank to suppress me was Yin Snake, who is now dead, did you know? As he spoke, the sand waterfall field behind Bai Pu turned into an invisible gentle wind, pushing the rows of bookshelves to slide backwards. This is the ability to control the energy of the magic fighting spirit after advancing to level 7, relying on the original deformation special effect. Although the control is not subtle enough now, and sometimes books fall down, it is better than leaving them in place and being destroyed by the aftermath of the battle. Bai Pu pushed the bookshelf away, clearing a battlefield. The atmosphere changed, and he had already used Jin Fusion. After all, Xianlang and Zavala were one level higher than him, and their combat expertise was stronger, so he couldn't take it lightly. Bai Pu's combat expertise was greatly improved to level 9. The greatsword separated Zavala's bone hammer, and Zavala took 2 steps back. The two had the same strength judgment value, but the mountain collapse secret was unreasonable. Then Bai Pu tapped his brows with his fingers, and a magic power was drawn out alone. Accompanied by Bai Pu holding a spell with one hand, he shouted softly, "Mud spell." Fortunately, he had the professional passive skill magic chanting by its omission, which saved the time of chanting magic spells. Of course, Bai Pu's mastery of mud spells is not yet proficient, and he needs to shout out the last syllable of the spell, that is, the name of the magic spell, to activate it. When he is proficient enough, even these 3 words will be omitted, and then he will be able to silently cast low-level spells. The field suddenly fell into a muddy field, sinking to his ankles. The movement speed of Xianlang and others dropped by more than 10 points, which offset the slowdown immunity of the Phantom Realm from a numerical point of view. The dual cultivation of magic and martial arts is just unreasonable. Bai Pu took a big step forward, and a sword with a several-foot-long dark yellow sword energy directly hit Xianlang. Xianlang could only raise his sword to fight hard. In an instant, the sword light shot out several feet of evil spirits. That was the performance of him attaching the killing secret to the general attack. The battle between high-level awakeners, especially the competition between melee warriors, often does not have so many fancy skills and special effects. In the end, it still depends on the hard power of their respective attributes, combat skills and secrets. Fancy skills and special effects cannot kill people, but only provide a slight advantage for the frontal hard fight. For example, the acceleration skill is to avoid enemy attacks, the displacement skill is to adjust the body position, and the control skill is to make it difficult for the enemy to resist. And these abilities, in the battle between high-level awakeners, are either exchanged or, like Bai Pu's domain, forcibly restricted so that the opponent cannot use them. Chapter 498 Killing the enemy is like cutting grass. With a loud bang, Bai Pu's sword and Yanlang's long sword collided. As expected, the evil spirit of the long sword was shattered and dissipated, and Yanlang's body surface had a shallow scar, which was caused by the residual power of the collapsing mountain sword key. 124. Of course, the secret of killing is not simple. Although the physical evil spirit was broken, the fluctuation of killing intent on the spiritual level was transmitted to Bai Pu's mind through this clash of weapons, trying to affect Bai Pu's mind. In simple terms, it is to make Bai Pu lose his temper. Bai Pu's face was like an ancient well, and it was impossible for him to lose his temper. Taking advantage of Yanlang's unstable body, he stepped forward and stabbed the sword straight into the center. Tianlang's speed was greatly reduced, so he could only try to block it. Bai Pu's sword and long sword touched and retracted, but he just made a feint, and then raised his foot and kicked out, hitting Yanlang's waist. The fake move was smooth and flowing, and Yanlang was a little confused. "No, you are a young man, how can you be so unethical? To deceive and sneak attack an old comrade like me?" If it was a one-on-one fight, Xianling would be half dead now. Fortunately, there was an orc leader Zavala next to him. He knew the principle of lips and teeth are cold. When Bai Pu's sword chopped towards Xianling's head, he quickly swung a stick and hit Bai Pu's lower back, trying to rescue Xianling. Bai Pu did not dodge. Swish! Bang! The sound of the sharp blade breaking through the skin and flesh, and the muffled sound of the bone stick hitting the human body, almost sounded at the same time. Bai Pu's figure shook slightly, but he was not hurt. A layer of fine cracks appeared on the surface of the iron waist of the immortal king in his lower back. Crackling, the cracks expanded rapidly, and pieces of solid gravel turned into quicksand and flew away, revealing Bai Pu's true body in the lower back. Sand armor. Sand armor can absorb up to 798 points of damage. The key is that after opening the Sand Falls field, it will continuously absorb the vitality of the surrounding enemies, turning into new energy gravel to replenish the sand armor. From this point of view, the sand armor is somewhat similar to the previous professional skill, flesh armor. But the numerical value is much stronger. The upper limit of the durability of the sand armor is 6 times that of the endurance attribute. The mechanism is also stronger. During the existence of the sand armor, Bai Pu's ability to resist interruption is further improved. Like the full-strength swing of the 8th level enhanced warrior just now, if it were someone else, he would have been knocked out long ago. Even a tank profession with heavy armor proficiency would have staggered for several steps. But Bai Pu relied on the sand armor's ability to resist interruption. He just shook his body slightly, revealing very little flaw. The reason why Bai Pu took Zavala's stick was to exchange injuries for injuries. He took the damage himself, and at the same time poured stronger and more fierce damage on Xianling's head. Bai Pu took the blow as if nothing had happened, but Xianling was different. When Bai Pu's big sword chopped his head, Xianling only had time to turn his head and take the blow with his thicker armored shoulder. Blood burst out, and Xianling's shoulder armor exploded like paper. The residual force of the mountain-breaking attack directly broke Xianling's shoulder, revealing half of the white bone. 456. Ah! Xianling screamed in pain and fell to one knee after being chopped by the sword. Bai Pu followed the trajectory of the wind, and with the help of Zavala's stick, he turned the forward momentum into rotational force, turned around and slashed Xianling's neck with a sword. Xianling's eyes showed despair, tore open a scroll, and his body was suddenly covered with a thick white shield. However, the moment this white shield touched Bai Pu's sword containing the essence of mountain breaking, the energy was unbalanced and it was declared broken. The chainsaw sword chopped off Xianling's head lightly, just like cutting off a blade of grass. How is it possible? Zilao's eyes widened. The moment Xianling died in the battle, a layer of red mysterious energy suddenly appeared on his body, and his figure faded and disappeared silently. The fluctuation of divine power. Seeing that the situation was not good, Zilao didn't care about any plan and directly activated the divine power given by the messenger of God to force his return. When his figure faded, Zilao's facial expression was ferocious and his muscles twitched. It was unknown whether he was heartbroken about the loss of divine energy or worried about the destruction of the mission. Bai Pu easily defeated Xianling, a level 9 hero class, and died like a blade of grass. When masters compete with each other, the most fundamental thing is hard power. Xianling has many sprint-type displacement skills and 2 different shield life-saving skills. This allows him to be flexible and changeable when facing ordinary opponents, making it difficult for the opponent to defend. However, Bai Pu's Sand Falls domain ruthlessly restricts all sprint-type displacement, and the Collapse of Mountain secret is specifically designed to counter shields and armor. Today, Bai Pu is like Yang Guo holding a black iron heavy sword. The trick is not to be perfect. After adding the Collapse of Mountain secret, the ordinary attack is comparable to the power of skills. Except for strong people like King Jinglin who have strong hard power and can fight head-on, the rest of the ghosts in Shanxi Cave, the side doors of the 36 caves and 72 islands, all kinds of fancy means and weird special effects are difficult to play. Bai Pu went straight to Zavala. The 9th level 2-handed swordsmanship was no less skilled than Zavala's, and Bai Pu had already mastered the mountain collapse secret, which was beyond Zavala's reach. Every time the sword and stick collided, a cloud of bone fragments would be brought out. Zavala even felt an illusion like a mountain collapse, which kept appearing in his vision, making him feel nervous and unable to fight calmly. Bai Pu kept making shallow wounds on Zavala's body. The damage caused each time was not high, only 200 or 300, but after a little bit of accumulation, this high-level enhanced warrior with more than 10,000 horsepower could not bear it. Zavala felt distressed about his weapon, worried that it would be shattered by Bai Pu, and he became more restrained when he attacked, mainly avoiding, and trying to avoid fighting with Bai Pu. But in this way, his flaws were inevitable, and Bai Pu saw the opportunity and slashed his chest with a full-strength sword. Blood spurted out, and he directly lost 1,352 health points, and even his sternum was clearly visible. Damn it! I can't hesitate any longer. Zavala endured the severe pain, took out a leather scroll with shaking hands, and unfolded it. On the leather scroll, strange patterns were drawn with dried blood, which looked like a dark red eye, and it blinked at Bai Pu. Bai Pu suddenly felt a cold and chilly energy invading his body. You are affected by the voodoo curse, losing 1 point of strength, 1 point of agility, 1 point of endurance and 1 point of spirit per minute, losing 100 points of health per minute. This effect will double every 1 minute. At present, the cold and chilly energy only acts on the skin and muscles, and has not yet penetrated into the blood vessels, bones and even internal organs. Bai Pu estimated that once the curse enters deeper into the body, it will probably double the effect. After practicing the advanced fighting spirit training method, Bai Pu is not powerless to resist this strange method. The magic fighting spirit in his body is running at a high speed to resist the invasion of the voodoo curse. The priority of the voodoo curse is 9 points, and the priority of the Sanfua fighting key against alien energy is 9 points. When you are fully activating the fighting key energy to resist, the curse will not continue to take effect. Right square bracket. Chapter 499. I choose the third option. However, as soon as Bai Pu slowed down the defense of the Sanfual Dao Key, the cold energy of the voodoo curse would eat away at him, and continue to drain Bai Pu's surrounding attributes and his health. Bai Pu could only use his Dao Key to defend himself, which made him unable to use the mountain collapse secret because he could not add Dao Key energy to his attack. He even had to put away the Sanfual domain. How does the curse of the Rohan tribe's voodoo shaman taste? Zavala knocked Bai Pu back several steps with a stick, and sneered, you have 2 choices now. The first is to ignore the curse and fight me with all your strength. In a few minutes, the voodoo will penetrate into your heart and you will be completely finished. The second is to use all your Dao Ki to resist the curse, but in this way you will not be able to use Dao Ki to fight, and I will beat you to death. I choose the third option. Bai Pu said coldly, and at the same time, a slightly smaller Sanfual domain was deployed. The sandstorm swept Zavala in. Are you crazy? You want to fight me while resisting the voodoo? Zavala couldn't believe it. With your fighting spirit strength, you must defend with all your strength to prevent the invasion of the voodoo curse. If you divide your attention, you will still die. Bai Pu ignored him and strode over, slashing down with his sword. Zavala could only raise his stick to meet him. However, at this time, Bai Pu had already used the pure blood bonus and activated 2 accessories at the same time. The sting of the manticore, open. The fierce eye of the giant crocodile, open. All kinds of other bonuses on Bai Pu were activated simultaneously, such as the +4 special effect of the Swedish Royal Spirit Ring, which increased the attack speed by 15 points, and was also activated by him. He really went all out, but Bai Pu's fighting spirit output was only about half of the normal value. The remaining half of the fighting spirit was still running in his body to resist the voodoo curse. Zavala's judgment was not wrong. With Bai Pu's fighting spirit cultivation, he must resist with all his strength to prevent the voodoo curse from deepening. However, Zavala didn't know one thing. Bai Pu also has a talent, adaptive evolution. As soon as he was hurt by the voodoo curse, Bai Pu stored a new evolutionary state, the molted body. The molted body is specifically targeted at the voodoo curse, which weakens the effect of the voodoo curse by 50%. The most important thing is that the effect doubles every 1 minute has also changed to the effect doubles every 2 minutes. Intuitively speaking, the speed of voodoo energy invasion has slowed down and the efficiency has become lower. The original penetration of voodoo energy was like penetrating layers of mulberry paper, and the speed was very fast. With a strong repulsion of voodoo energy generated by the molted body, the penetration of voodoo energy is now like penetrating layers of raw cowhide, and the speed is naturally greatly reduced. So in this case, Bai Pu only needs to use a small half of his fighting spirit to resist the spread of the curse. This is the third way Bai Pu chose, carrying the voodoo curse and killing Zavala. Zavala and Bai Pu fought each other. Although he did not feel the invasion of the mystery of the collapse of the mountain this time, his wrist was numb and painful. The opponent's fighting spirit has indeed weakened by half, but his physical strength has increased a lot. What's going on? Zavala was puzzled, but still had a fierce look on his face. In any case, his fighting spirit has weakened, and the ultimate attack he unleashed is not as terrible as before. I will take the opportunity to attack and replace defense with offense. Attack is the best defense. As an orc general, Zavala is not lacking in the courage to fight for his life. Bai Pu raised his hand, the dark gold tower shield floated, and directly entered the state of demon power release. Level 7 enhanced special effect, protect the master. More than 200 armor pieces are embedded in all parts of the body. At the same time, 2 spider demon warriors quietly appeared behind Zavala, and 2 more appeared in a blink of an eye, a total of 4 spider demon warriors. Bai Pu did not hesitate to force the consumption of 60 points of the Dark Gold Tower Shield's durability and repeatedly activated the Queen's Edict, mainly to defend the surrounding orc subordinates. Originally, the range of the Sand Falls field was large enough to include all the orcs, and with the mud spell punishment, there was no need to pay attention to them. But now, the scope of the Sand Falls domain has shrunk, and the orcs around have been freed. Whether they come to besiege him or to steal the collection of books, it will be troublesome. Bai Pu has revealed all his cards. Zavala roared and swung his stick, but Bai Pu did not dodge or avoid. The stick hit Bai Pu's iron-horned helmet, but was blocked by the dark gold tower shield armor plate embedded on it, reducing 90% of the power. Only a little damage was converted into shock attack, which was easily absorbed by Bai Pu's sand armor. Bai Pu took the stick lightly and stabbed forward with a backhanded sword. Zavala had no time to dodge or parry, and could only try to turn sideways. With a swish, the serrated blade cut a 1 foot long and inch deep wound on the surface of Zavala's skin, and blood gushed out. Zavala took a deep breath, and the muscles at the wound contracted to stop the continuous flow of blood for himself. He raised his stick to block Bai Pu's next blow, and turned to hit Bai Pu's neck. Ling. Bai Pu rushed forward, and the armor on his neck blocked the damage of this blow again. At the same time, Bai Pu rushed with his shoulder and hit Zavala's chest. The tall orc was knocked back 2 steps. Immediately afterwards, Bai Pu hooked his foot, and Zavala's retreat was not over yet. He tripped and fell backwards. Bai Pu's sword stabbed down, but Zavala was experienced and rolled over to avoid the heart. Only one arm was pierced and almost nailed to the floor of the secret hall. 367. Bai Pu kept chasing and wounding Zavala again and again. Zavala was very frustrated in this battle. If he hadn't kept a thought in his heart and wanted to wait until Bai Pu's curse power was fully unleashed, he would probably have run away like Xilu. Time passed minute by minute. Zavala's expression changed from expectation to confusion, from confusion to disappointment, and from disappointment to despair. Impossible, you can't hold on for so long. You should have been poisoned long ago. No, it's you who are about to be poisoned. Bai Pu said calmly, stretching out his 5 fingers and covering Zavala from a distance. Then, he suddenly clenched his 5 fingers and formed a tight fist. Explode. Accessory, Scorpion Tail Lion's Sting +7 Special Effect, Toxic Burst. Toxic Burst, passive, while the Scorpion Tail Lion's toxins cause continuous damage, they will also sneak into the opponent's weak defense parts and accumulate. Actively activating this special effect will cause the toxins to burst out immediately and cause damage. The value is equal to the total value of the accumulated toxin damage of the equipment on the target. Zavala's eyes, mouth, nose and other weak defenses, all spurted out blood. Chapter 500 Golden Props. Your accessory, Manticore Sting +7 Special Effect, the Toxic Burst caused 2,445 poison damage to Zavala's 7 orifices and other vital parts. Zavala's eyeballs, eardrums and other vital parts suffered a single high amount of damage, and entered a permanent disability state. Zavala's eyes, ear holes and other weak parts almost burst into blood at the same time, and he coughed up a large amount of dirty blood. It can actually cause such a result. Bai Pu was surprised, but he also knew that this should be Zavala's orc tribe from a remote and wild land. It is estimated that there is not even a decent advanced fighting spirit cultivation method. It is unable to resist the invading toxins and can only allow the toxins to accumulate in the vital parts. At present, the priority of the Manticore Sting to ignore poison resistance is as high as 9 points. If you encounter an enhanced warrior who has practiced a powerful fighting spirit cultivation method, such as Toxin, a student at the God of War peak, the opponent will definitely have a way to use fighting spirit to resist the toxins, just like Bai Pu resisted the voodoo curse. Because the toxin is essentially an invasion of alien energy. As for the Lord-level warriors, such as Munis, it goes without saying. In any case, the Thorn of the Manticore is very effective for Zavala, who does not prioritize defense. Zavala's health value dropped directly to the point of death, and he fell into a state of complete loss of vision and hearing. He opened his mouth to speak, but his vocal cords had been destroyed by the poison, and only a hissing sound remained. Bai Pu stepped forward and cut off the head of the enhanced warrior with a knife. The remaining orcs were fighting with the spider warriors on the periphery. The level of the spider warrior followed Bai Pu's level and climbed to level 7 at this time. In terms of attributes, it was equivalent to the level 7 warriors in the spirit world. The combat expertise and skills of these spider demons were also enhanced by Bai Pu's limit breaker, and their combat effectiveness was higher than that of ordinary level 7 warriors. However, without the health bonus of the world beacon, their survivability was not strong enough. The inability to comprehend the mystery also limited their upper limit. But it was no problem to entangle these orcs. Bai Pu still used half of his Dao Ki to resist the voodoo curse, and the remaining half was enough for him to kill these orc warriors one by one. It is worth mentioning that killing a whole team of orc warriors only gave Bai Pu 2 small gold loot chests. Fortunately, the orc leader Zavala still dropped a large gold treasure chest belonging to the enhanced warriors. In addition, Xian Lang, a level 9 awakener, also dropped a bloody treasure chest after his death. Bai Pu had experienced a great battle at this time, and a small part of the Sand Falls Dao Ki was still retained. This is because his Sand Falls Dao Ki is a fusion of magic and Dao Ki, and the current total amount is as high as 1,800 points. The general level 7 enhanced hero, that is, an awakener who has made a breakthrough in the professional plane and has increased the basic priority to 5 points, should have a professional energy of 1,200 points, with a deviation of no more than 200 points. This is the data collected by Bai Pu before. Bai Pu patrolled outside the door of the secret collection hall and found 2 security guards slumped on the ground. He checked and confirmed that both of them were powerless. He could only shake his head and return to the secret hall to clean up the battlefield. The shield devoured Zavala's body, and its durability was slowly recovering. Bai Pu put it into the storage space. As for the bodies of the other orcs and the wolf, he threw them outside the secret hall. Bai Pu also restored the slightly messy bookshelves and classics to their original positions. After doing all this, Bai Pu frowned slightly. He felt that the alien energy of the voodoo curse was still invading, and he had to distract himself with his fighting spirit to resist it. In this way, his fighting spirit could not be naturally restored. Just in case, Bai Pu knocked off a bottle of powerful energy potion, then sat in the administrator's seat and opened the loot box. First, there were 2 small gold treasure chests, each with 1 draw. Bai Pu drew a piece of gold equipment each, but the attributes and skills were not outstanding, not as suitable as the equipment on his body, so he temporarily put it away and stored it as the auxiliary combustion equipment needed to strengthen and upgrade the dark gold equipment. Bai Pu had 2 draws for the large gold treasure chest dropped by Zavala. You have obtained the sundry item, Zavala's tiger skin underwear. Selling it can exchange for 15,000 spiritual power points. You have obtained the item, Voodoo Curse Scroll. Bai Pu sold the tiger skin underwear immediately without any appreciation. The Voodoo Curse Scroll is a piece of old animal skin with strange patterns written in dark red blood, like a blood eye, with a pungent smell. Voodoo Curse Scroll, D-level gold item. After using it, the target will fall into cursed state, losing 1 point of strength, agility, endurance and spirit every minute, and losing 100 health points. The effect will double every 1 minute, and it will last for a maximum of 5 minutes. Tip: if an orc believes in the teachings of the voodoo shaman and is recognized by it, when using the Voodoo Curse Scroll, the effect can be permanent. It can only be removed by a targeted ability with a priority of 9 or above. If the opponent has not practiced advanced methods, he will not be able to resist the curse with energy. The 5-minute curse can cause the opponent to lose 31 points of all attributes and 3,100 health points. It is really powerful. Bai Pu silently weighed in his heart, what a pity. Powerful enemies often practice high-end advanced methods, and the energy in their bodies is pure enough to resist the curse, or at least slow down the invasion of the curse energy. Bai Pu put away the scroll with great care. Although it can be resisted by pure energy, when the opponent resists the curse energy, the energy used for fighting will inevitably be greatly reduced. So this scroll is still very useful, especially when fighting against a strong enemy, which is equivalent to giving the opponent a negative state of reducing energy output. Suddenly, there was a thunderous roar from the outside world, as if lightning broke through the sky, and the windows of the secret hall were lit for a moment. Drought thunder. Bai Pu ran to the window of the secret hall and looked out. In Gajetsun Academy, in the air in the teaching area, a slightly thin figure was suspended. The thin figure just raised his hand, and a flash of lightning flashed across the sky again. The dazzling light made Bai Pu bow his head and close his eyes. However, in the instant of light, Bai Pu also determined the identity of this person. With a big beard and a thin body, this person is obviously Bosch, the principal of Gajetsun. Seeing Bosch angry, Bai Pu knew the overall plan of the Superstar Alliance. First, they sent people to lure away Principal Bosch, and then the former Insider West building brought outsiders to sneak in and steal the classics of the secret collection hall. It is estimated that the Superstar Alliance also specially arranged masters to contain other high-level combat forces of Gajetsun Academy, so Bai Pu fought with Xianlang, Zavala and others for a long time, and no one came to support. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.